Namaste, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Shakti Vriddhi podcast. Today we have with us Sri Santhip Kanholy ji. Thank you, Santhip ji, for joining us today. Though I'm sure many of the viewers here would
Thank you.
not need an
Namaste. Namaste,
introduction.
everyone. Thank you.
I'm sure many of us here would not need an introduction for Santhip ji, but still, I will quickly introduce you. Dr. Santhip is from the city of Kozhikode in the state of Kerala, and he belongs to a family lineage of Vaidyas. He got his PhD in mechanical engineering from Virginia Tech. He developed his interest in astrology as a hobby during his graduate studies initially, watching the KRS channel YouTube videos. Later, he studied nakshatras with Dr. Arjun Pai, who nurtured and encouraged deeper exploration of Jyotish. His passion for nakshatras and Jyotish research resulted him appearing on various YouTube channels. He gives Jyotish readings, teaches students, and continues with his nakshatra research. We shall add Sandeep ji's email ID in the description of this video later. So if anyone is interested in contacting him, please feel free to do so. Thank you, Sandeep ji, for joining us today.
Oh.
So Sandeep ji, Archit and I were having this conversation before.
Okay, great. Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Anirudh and Archit, for inviting me.
Yes. So Archit and I
Yeah,
were having
seems like
this
there's a
conversation.
lag on my end, but I think it should get better soon. But let's see. So, yeah. But go ahead, Anirudh. Go ahead. Please, I can see you.
Yes. So for most of the viewers here, you may see that Archit is a new face. Yeah. So we're just trying a new format where we'll have more of our volunteers show up for hosting the podcast and managing it. So I'm here to support Archit as we together host Sandeep ji today. And Sandeep ji, to start the conversation, there is a question that Archit and I thought of, which we did not share with you. Your bio is very interesting. For someone who holds a doctorate in mechanical engineering, how did you land up as an astrologer? What led to that shift?
Yeah, that's a very out of the ordinary thing to happen for sure. Normally, if you are on the PhD track of things, you are following either the academic line or a job in industry. However, what happened with me was that I definitely developed an interest in Jyotish actually. Then normally after PhD line, I still had that interest in research actually. So then, due to some family circumstances, I had to come back to India. However, that actually helped me in, then it was like I had plenty of time in my hand, had time to explore Jyotisha deeply as well. Fortunately, after a lot of synchronicity kind of events, I ended up taking Dr. Pai's course, actually, Dr. Arjun Pai's course on Nakshatras. A friend was supposed to take it. That friend could not take it because that friend was traveling. I ended up taking that course. And of course, a PhD brain studying Nakshatras. Dr. Arjun Pai was also PhD, so we synced quite well. He encouraged the research component more actually. So Jyotisha is lacking research component, though there are many astrologers trying to bring that up more these days. So we kind of synced up quite well. And his way of looking at things was different. So he it was like once I connected with him, it was more like he let a wild horse run free. That's the best analogy I can give. So that kind of helped out a lot. And of course, I was into meditation, sadhana, and all that a little bit before also. So that kind of helped. So big thing for me was that the deeper you go into anything, like you begin to realize that Jyotisha is not just about the study of time. It's really about the study of consciousness, actually. And that's what we're doing, trying to do in sadhana. We are trying to change our consciousness for good. It's no longer limited to the study of time. In fact, one of the first things I tell to anyone who is getting into Jyotish is that you should not limit Jyotisha to the study of time and its prediction. You should actually evolve it how it was originally understood, like the eyes of the Vedas, right? It's literally about what is actually, what is the energy in your life, what is the consciousness you're bringing into your own life, actually. So it becomes a very important thing. So that the moment you get into the consciousness thing, now it opened up a whole dam of flood kind of thing opened up for me. So then the exploration got deeper. So I continue to tell that even Jyotisha on my end is still a big scientific experiment which is still continuing to has not seen its end yet. The moment that experiment ends, then I can say, okay, the journey with Jyotisha is over. As well. So far, it has not become over yet, which means I'm still continuing to dig deeper. It's opening up a lot more deeper dimensions and so forth. So without doubt, it you can see once you get into Jyotisha why it was kept occult. You can see that much more easily. And definitely, like any sadhana, how it was kept occult, Jyotisha also has a deep side to it. So definitely, it is intellectually a very nourishing field. It also open once you have that conscious view to Jyotisha, it's really a big thing. And of course, funny thing about mechanical engineering and Jyotisha is that both are very close to each other because the planet linked with mechanical engineering usually is Mars, and Mars is also linked with Scorpio sign, which is the occult sign in Jyotisha also. So quite often you'll see natural people who are into um, uh, mechanical engineering are more easily they have that mathematical mind or that calculative mind of mind which can appreciate Jyotisha much more quickly as well. And most of the time also, as you mentioned, I came from a family lineage of Vaidyas actually. So in ancient times, one of the things that would happen is that the Vaidyas would definitely learn all the books on Ayurveda and so forth. But then for them, it was easier to learn about Jyotisha. It was just reading one more book. So most of the time in ancient times, it was required for Vaidyas to know Jyotisha, Jyotishis to know Vaidyas and so forth. It was like Vaidyas knew Vastu, Jyotishis knew Vastu. It was a normal thing in ancient times. Even now, also, there are many people who follow that kind of thing. So it seems like my the knowledge in my blood woke up after some stuff. That's what it seems like. So some life instance opened up that knowledge, and that's a big thing. Some knowledge is there in our blood for sure. So quite often it might open up in deep ways. Now, of course, the Vaidya part has not opened up yet. At least the Jyotisha part has opened fully now. So at least I'm grateful for that. So that seems to be what has happened actually. Now, of course, now I continue to get into Jyotisha. Now, it's been a uh, fulfilling journey as of now also. Yeah. So hopefully that
Thank you,
clears up
Santhip ji.
why that transition kind of thing happened.
Yeah. And you have introduced yourself very beautifully in your inimicable style. So, viewers, we did not introduce a topic for today yet, so I feel now is the right time. You all must be quite aware of how rampant astrology is on social media. A lot of people are taking advice from Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. But today we have a different take on it, something that we don't easily find on YouTube and other social media platforms. Santipji will be talking to us about the role of astrology, Jyotisha Vidya, for an Upasak. So please be aware that Santipji he'll connect multiple dots together, and each segment will open up new aspects to you. Just like how before we went live, he started talking about the logo. So Santipji, I would request you to kindly share with our viewers what is your take on the Shakti Vriddhi logo.
Yeah, just making an observation just as we were preparing for the video. So you could see that. So in Jyotisha, it becomes very important to see it's the science of light. It's the eyes of the Veda. So whatever the light aspect becomes very important. So understanding light and color becomes very important. So normally Jyotisha, the color aspect becomes extremely important. Now forget about Jyotisha, normal sadhana also, the color of the deity becomes very important. The Dhyana Shloka clearly mentions what color a deity should be having, whether it's blue color, red color, white color, and so forth. It becomes very important. So Jyotisha can be as simple as recognizing what color are you looking at. It's as simple as that. If you can understand that, so it can be very easy. So you have the normal color with like darker colors with malefic, like Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu kind of thing. You have the you can say the brighter colors with the benefic planets. That's one way of looking at it. Or you can even say, and specific planets have their own colors also. That is also one fundamental thing you can see. So in your color in the logo, you can see the red color dominantly. So that means that's a Rajasic Guna kind of color. So there's an action activity kind of thing which is very dominantly there, which is good. Now red color usually is linked with the colors of sun. So the bright rising sun, the sun aspect is very strong. Rising sun color is a very normal thing. And then you have the so sun energy can be claimed. Now Mars can also be linked with red color. That's also one more aspect. The fertile earth is red, so as they call it. So Mars energy, Sun energy can easily be seen from the dominant color. However, here the other aspect which I really highlighted was the black eyes of the Devi, right? So the Devi's eyes are painted in black color and not in red color or white color or golden color kind of thing. So that definitely that's also pointing to a very deep aspect. So you're kind of seeing that how the Devi's eyes will be there. So of course the black color usually is linked with Saturnian energies actually. However, the Saturn is a graha. Saturn, Rahu, Ketu in general are grahas that are linked with time. So these are grahas that will be there for a really long time. So you can claim that, and most of the time, successful companies will always have some kind of black somewhere in their logo. Actually, so you will see that they are able to sustain for a really long time because of that. So that's the other aspect. So you can see that Devi's energy will be there for a long time. Or the fact that no, compared to a logo which is yellow in color, or compared to a logo with eyes of the Devi in yellow in color, or golden color, or eyes for logo in blue color, or so forth, each of it has its own significance. So here you are inviting Davis energy in the black color. So inviting more to the stability factor, the more stable presence energy is basically what you're inviting the Davis. Now it's a very important point because if you there is different significance when you have a Devi. If you're giving a red sari to decorator or a yellow sari to decorator, white sari to decorator, you are inviting the blessings of the Devi in this very specific energy frequency. Extremely important. So similarly, when you actually draw a Devi also, like when the color or the frequency which you are inviting a Devi is vision through, that also has its own impact. So that's one thing. That's one interesting thing which I made of that. So definitely black is also linked with Rahu. So definitely easily that can be linked with Rahu can be linked with Durga Ma, Kali, Bhairava, and all that. So easily you can see those kind of influences also from that perspective. But red color in general is a very good color. It's a Rajasic color. It helps to move forward and all that. So different depending upon sampradayas, they consider some sampradayas consider red as a Muladhara color also. Some sampradayas consider red as the Rajasic color also. Both are fine. So each sampradayas have their own devatas. Correspondingly, the color variation is pretty normal. So nothing good or bad about it. The Sampradaya Veda is normal actually. But at least that it's still good. It still indicates energy that is moving and the energy that is stable, all that kind of thing can be clear. So now, of course, there are many variations also. Logos usually that are square has a very straightforward way about going about things. Logo that has curve will always have a moving energy about it. That's also one of the things you'll see. So quite often you'll see men prefer to wear square watches compared to women who wear round watches and all that. So it's a normal thing. Masculine versus feminine thing is also there. So that's also one more aspect you can see. So masculine square versus the feminine eyes kind of thing going on from that perspective.
Yeah. Sandeep ji, can I ask you a follow-up question on this only?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, what I have observed is that you read the environment near you in a very perfect way. So, is that part of your training of the astrology, or you have learned it through your readings, or it has come to you? How you have arrived at this?
Right. So once I started my Jyotisha journey, of course, I was in the US watching YouTube videos when I started it. It kind of started off also like when someone actually asked my father, basically said that just tell your son to control his Jyotisha studies. I was like, why is this guy telling me about Jyotisha and all that? So I started by looking what is this Jyotisha thing. So I started watching YouTube videos then. So thankfully at that point in time there was only one YouTube channel doing astrology videos. It made it easier at that point in time. So I started by that. So it was a YouTube thing how I started the learning process actually. But as I mentioned, eventually like the blood thing boiled up. So one thing that happened. So one thing I want to highlight here is that in Kerala, of course, Jyotisha is a completely different level altogether. It's a whole different ball game in Kerala where I'm from. Because here you have the living tradition of Jyotisha still being continued. There are Guru Paramparas that are establishing. They have very clear cut setups still going on. A lot of Jyotisha. Most of the Tantra Pidams will normally teach Jyotisha as part of their training to the Tantrics and so forth. Very normal thing. And a big thing that is a big thing in Kerala that also happens is the idea of like Ashtamangala Prashna and all that. And Ashtamangala Prashna is a unique thing in which you actually see, a prashna being done for the devata of a temple. What is the icha of a devata? So think about that. Astrology chart for a god or goddess in a temple, actually. So in Kerala, you have the system. In most of tantric traditions, the sampradaya requires you to consider the Devi or a Devata in a temple as an individual identity itself. So they have a separate existence. They are like treated like a person. Actually, they are treated like a living person who has to be given food and all that and so forth. And that kind of unique astrological um, tradition is still there in Kerala. The idea of Ashtamangala Prashna and so forth. Now, Ashtamangala Prashna need not be just restricted to temples. However, it can be done to identify the energies guiding a family as well. So it's a very deep thing. So the prashna can be applied to solve a big problem. So quite often, Ashtamangala Prashna in north of Kerala is called a Swarna Prashna, in which you actually have a gold coin is used in part of the thing. So gold is linked with sun and Jupiter energy. Or a gold coin is used to make a prashna. A young girl child or young boy child is asked to place after puja is done, after the chart is sanctified and all that. They ask a young boy or young girl child to put a gold coin there actually, and choose one of the random lagnas given by nature. The idea being, a young child is the purest vessel for nature, and they will reflect what the Devis or Devatas is very directly. In fact, I was reading just before this interview. Apparently, you have those natural gifts very strongly with you, which you communicate with the Devis and Devatas until you're 5 years old. 5 years of age, the children are very natural at that. So that's what they say. So young Balika and Bala is actually choose one of these lagna, and then three astrologers sit down and deliberate. Why did the Devi choose this lagna, and becomes a big thing. Whoever is present in an Ashtamangala Prashna, their questions can be answered. That is a legend actually. So it's, and there could be 50 people present, 100 people present. All their questions can still be answered by the astrologer. So I happened to attend one of these when I was getting into Jyotisha. So when I came to India, I happened to attend one of these Prashna actually, Sunna Prashna kind of thing. There was a very fascinating incident where like a couple of two sisters came to the astrologer and asked, our brother has left our home for three 30 years ago or something. We have not met him. Will he come back? Now, interestingly, exactly at that point in time, now I was getting into Jyotish. I understood the basics of planets and houses and all that at that point in time. Exactly at that point in time, a lady got a phone call in the crowd. She came to the front and she moved towards the north direction to take the phone call. I was very close to the astrologer, so I could exactly see what he was looking at. So he was looking at the chart. He looked at the lady coming. He looked at the lady moving to the north. Immediately, he made a comment saying, your brother went to a city in the northern direction because of a woman. Now, I was like, he is basically reading the scene. And he was actually confirming what he was seeing in the chart from the nimitta around that particular scene, actually, around the question. That's exactly what it was. Very clear. It was very clear because I was there. I could see what he was doing and so forth. He looked at the chart. He confirmed the woman or nimitta as it's called, and he confirmed that. And then exactly the sisters confirmed that yes, my brother last we heard from was he was in Mumbai or something. And then astrologer said yes, the son, your brother will come back, and so eventually, like 2-3 years later, that brother did come back also. So that's the thing. So very important lesson I learned was that how the actual astrologers who were Devajñas, like who were interacting with the gods, who were doing prashnas to the Devis and Devatas, they did not ignore nimittas at all. They were clearly looking at what was happening exactly around. So, well, PhD brain and this kind of idea, definitely I utilize that a lot. And you realize that every astrology chart is a big, it's like a holographic thing. If you are already looking at planets up in the sky to see what events are going to happen in our lives, then definitely, like if a question is being asked and when a chart is being analyzed, events happening around the chart can be reflected in the chart actually. So the idea of nimitta is a very important aspect actually. Now, interestingly, you see that of course in normal Jyotisha techniques, you have the mathematical side to it, which is equally important. However, as I mentioned, the nimitta aspect can never be ignored. And there is even a shloka for that also in Prashnamarga also. It's a very famous shloka also from that perspective. So the nimitta aspect becomes very, very important. And more importantly, look at the definition of Jyotisha itself. It is called as eyes of the Vedas. So anything that is holding in your eyes should be part of Jyotisha. And quite often, it's not the mathematical formula. It's not like the planets up in the sky, just limited to that. Everything, the entire planets are reflected in the events happening. that is catching your attention, catching your awareness exactly at that point in time. So observation as a faculty is a very important aspect in Jyotisha. And definitely that is one of the first things you have to train if you are to become a successful Jyotishi, in my opinion. Now again, this is a normal thing in traditional Gurukulam system and all that. They have to consider nimitta because they quite often when you have a Ishtadevata and you're doing Upasana Devata and all that, it's an actual thing they say. If you like when you're stepping out of your home, you come across Durnimitta. It's a very direct thing which they say. The Upasana Devata is telling you not to do this reading, not to go ahead with the astrology consultation and so forth. It's a direct thing. You can never ignore nimitta actually. It becomes very important. So that kind of training is very normal in Kerala. So you hear legends also in Kerala, like someone was actually came to inquire about marriage proposal between two charts. The moment that the person inquiring about this marriage thing, immediately the querent came in, but immediately out of nowhere, some neighbor comes by and says and invites the astrologer to attend a wedding that is going to happen in the neighborhood like 2 weeks from now. Astrologer said, I don't need to look at your charts and see if they're compatible. The nimitta confirms that it is already compatible. You can go ahead. So there are cases like that. Now, from an astrology perspective, this can be amazing. How can a person do that? But for someone who's in Jyotisha kind of thing, the moment you have that perspective that Jyotisha is everything that is linked with the eyes, it's also directly linked. And you have to have a different sense of Jyotisha. Jyotisha is no longer a mathematical thing or an intellectual topic which is studying. It's an actual consciousness thing. You have to see what is happening at various levels of consciousness also when you're getting into Jyotisha. And both are linked. And the very good chance that when you're looking into the environment, that environment is reflecting the question without a doubt. The moment you have that deep understanding, then you will never ignore what is happening and so forth. So quite often, if someone reminds me of someone who went to purchase a land, of course, there is no, he did not know any Jyotish. However, I encourage him, just keep an open eye about when you're going to purchase a land. Tell me what nimittas you observe and so forth. When he went to purchase a land, like he said that a dog was barking in the background. So I said that land won't be good. So he also confirmed that land is not good because the entryway is no there, a car cannot go in and all that and so forth. Over the next land when he went to, he said a cow literally walked on top of the land. He said, yeah, I said that's a very good thing. Actually. So you could see the cow's energy. Cow is basically moon and Venus energy. So definitely it's kind of considering a blessing, good investment, long term, all that kind of prediction you can say. So quite easily you can say that. So you can never ignore any nimitta. And you'll be amazed. And then the fundamental thing about the Jyotisha is that you are connecting with the events happening in the sky or movement of grass up in the sky with the events. But definitely, why not events happening outside of you as well? It's a very normal thing. So it's a very normal extension logic also from the perspective. So nimittas become very, very important. And without doubt, if you carefully observe nimittas, there are people who specialize in nimittas also. So people who really clearly specialize in nimittas, and they'll clearly say, like whether there's more income or compared to expenses, or they'll say clearly. I remember interacting with one such specialist once. When asked about a particular person, the puja bell was ringing in the background. So the nimitta specialist basically said that this particular person will always be in a state of emergency, like the bell being rung. And that was the case for this person. This person was never stable and all that. You could see that. So exactly that you could see. So it's never what is Jyotisha, right? You are trying to see the light of God in the person in front of you, in your own life and as part of your destiny and movements of life. Without doubt, that light of God can extend around also, very without doubt. And that's what we are trying also through sadhana and all that, to perceive the Devata in all aspects of our life and so forth is what we are trying. And definitely Jyotisha is no alien to that topic. Definitely it is also completely syncs up with that way of thinking, actually. So that's why natural omens of nature and all that are never ignored. But morely in modern days, I've seen you can't even ignore omens of technology also. Like even if, you won't believe, like when I'm talking to someone sends me like a WhatsApp message of Jwalamukhi Mata and all that. And I'm like, is your Kuldevi Jwalamukhi Mata? Yes, that's a Kuldevi. Things like that have happened actually. So you know that there is a field, an intelligent field capable of interacting with the Jyotishi and the current, no matter what. And that is an actual field that the Jyotishi has to definitely pursue without a doubt. And quite often, if you limit Jyotisha to the mathematical side of things, you are missing out on a lot. The whole Devata aspect is completely missed out if you're not looking into nimittas and so forth. That I can definitely confirm. without doubt. And like Ashtamangala Prashna astrologers are hardcore. They are hardcore into nimittas. They have made amazing predictions just based on nimittas also. So I come across them. So in Kerala, you have a rare breed of astrology and astrologers where you have a very living tradition still going on. Actually, they only follow the books of Parahamida, Acharya, and all that. So there's a tradition going on there that because of that, certain energies have been able to develop in which that you see that the Devata aspect of the Jyotisha still being very relevant. So that's a big thing. So never do you find ordinary astrologers who look at the Jataka aspect, which is your own horoscope, marriage, birth, and all that. You never see astrologers interacting about looking into devatas. But however, now not to that does not mean that I am into Ashtamangala Prashna or whatnot, but just being there, being in this land, having had the opportunity to witness these kind of astrologers, that has changed my perspective on Jyotisha completely. And more importantly, just bringing in those ideas into normal Jataka analysis also can rapidly change a lot of things. The moment you evolve the discussion to not just karmas of the native, you connect that with devatas. Now the nimittas would make a lot more sense. Something you can see going on from that perspective, actually. Yeah, without doubt. Yeah, so very very interesting, very important also. So I cannot say that enough. So that kind of so the devata aspect of Jyotisha is equally relevant. Not only that, as I mentioned, various nimitta is extremely important. Not just nimitta, even the environment, as you mentioned, Archiji, is extremely important actually. And you'll be amazed at what kind of prediction you can give. I remember one occasion, just to conclude this topic, I had someone was asking me, "Will I have a child?" This was like a 30-year-old lady kind of thing, and she was asking me at a like outside a hotel kind of thing. Actually, first time I'm meeting this lady, and she's asking me outside hotel. I said, "Nimitta supports you to have a child." Because again, hotel is a place where you get food, you're nourishing and all that. So it's a fourth house mother cancer kind of thing going on. So immediately you could see that. I told her that. So she was at least happy to hear that kind of thing. She's a Nimitta was supportive. That kind. So of course I have not heard back from the lady yet. I doubt if I hear back. But you'll be amazed actually. And quite often this aspect is clearly seen in sadhana for sure. There are certain mantras that has to be chanted by a goshala. There are certain mantras that you have to go to a smashana to do a thing and all that. There's certain mantras you have to go by a river and do it. Some mantra you have to go to a forest and do it and all that. Very clearly written, without a doubt. Without a doubt, the environment is factored into that. So those who understand that aspect or study that aspect deeply and who's having a regular sadhana will be able to catch on that very quickly. I cannot say that. That's a very, very important point. So that's an excellent thing, Arthiji. I cannot say that enough. So Jyotishis who are ignoring nimittas will, in my opinion, they are missing out on information that could be used very easily. Now that does not mean but however, as it may not mean that your normal mathematical Jyotisha is not working. Just that you have to start to look into it more. The moment you start to develop that observation faculty, you'll begin to see what I'm telling much more directly. And definitely, if you're a student of Jyotisha, never ignore nimittas without doubt. And eventually, just even if you do not know what the nimitta means, just make an observation and see how that eventually played out. Have 100 kind of nimitta observation, and eventually you'll know this nimitta is always meaning this kind of thing. And quite often that'll be directly linked with your sadhana. Actually. Like if you are Durga Upasaka, someone sends you a WhatsApp message of Durga Mata, you have to say that without doubt, your Devata is really supporting what you're telling and all that, your need and all that. There's actually Devi behind what you're telling. Devi is making her communicate presence known through you. So at exactly at this point in time when I'm talking to you, that cannot be ignored. Without doubt, it cannot be ignored. So that's a big, big thing. And I've seen many because the Devata aspect is missing, the Sadhana aspect is missing. People don't get to experience that aspect, in my opinion. So without doubt, so that's the other aspect. So yeah, definitely nimitta should not be ignored. And definitely the more observation you develop, the Jyotisha as the eyes of the Vedas will make more sense also. And that is expected. If Jyotishi is carrying the eyes of the is supposed to carry the knowledge of eyes of the Vedas, his or her own eyes also should be very aware. They should be able to see divinity everywhere. That becomes very, very important aspect.
Santhip, it's interesting you mentioned Ma Jwalamukhi because I was speaking to Sri Guru yesterday, and he mentioned Jwalamukhi Devi temple near Ma Chamundeshwari, and you mentioned her today.
Oh, great. Yeah. So Jwalamukhi Mata, very powerful Mata. You know, that Jwala and all that fire Devi, right? So very extremely powerful Mata. You cannot, like I said, I was surprised actually. Some of the Devatas will actually let their presence known actually. They'll let their know, look, my daughter is coming, make sure you're doing and all that. It's a normal thing when you begin to enter into that realm of work, to be frank. Definitely, without doubt. All the devatas, so quite often you'll get, some devatas will make sure their presence is known. Something to be aware about also.
Thank you, Santhip ji. So I think now is the right moment to get into the meat of the conversation, as they would say. What is the role of sadhana in a horoscope?
Okay, so normally from a Jyotisha perspective, there are specific houses linked with sadhana for sure. Let's put it that way. So, however, again, depending upon sampradayas you follow, different houses are given significance. So, some sampradayas would focus on the fifth house, some would focus on ninth house, some would focus on the lagna, some would focus on the sadhana of the strongest planet in the chart. For instance, someone with an exalted moon might be very good with doing Shakti Vriddhi Upasana and all that. Very normal because moon is exalted planet. Devi is actually linked with moon. So that sadhana is very normal. Someone with a strong sun. Shiva Upasana could be very strong in general. Prominent Rahu in the chart, more tamasic deities like Bhairava, Kali, or sometimes, Durga and all that can be very good in general. Venus, strong Venus, definitely the Rajasic deities. So you have the three categories in general, the three categories of grahas. So you have the tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic grahas. So usually the tamasic grahas are considered to be the Shani, Mars, Rahu, Ketu. Now Shani is of course tamasic, Rahu and Ketu considered to be more tamasic. So the tamasic deities, the more protective deities, the fierce deities, Ugra deities are linked with those kind of planets. So you have the Shani quite often linked with Hanumanji. Shani is also linked with Kali. Shani quite often is also very much linked with Bhairava and all that. Bhairava is famously the guru of Shani himself. So you can see that. Now Rahu can be linked with goddess Durga. Rahu can also be linked with Bhairava also. Rahu in many cases also is linked with goddess Kali. In the Mahavidya tradition, you have the corresponding Mahavidyas for each of those grahas also. Rahu in that some tradition they link that with Dhumavadi actually. Whereas Ketu is linked with the Chinnamasta in some traditions. Whereas in some other traditions, I've seen it being reversed also. Completely normal. So it's a Sampradaya Veda. The Sampradayas adjusted the energies accordingly. They have a energy thing going on actually. Mars is quite often linked with warrior deities. Now, interestingly, in Kerala, you find goddess Kali or Bhadrakali being described as the child of Shiva. So Rudra Sudha is how she is described actually. So she's actually linked with Mars in Kerala. So interestingly, you see that aspect. Whereas in North India and all that, you find Mars being linked with Hanumanji actually. In South India, and you go to Tamil Nadu, Mars is directly linked with Kartikeya and so forth. You see that. Now, Kartikeya is definitely a very ferocious deity, with a weapon kind of thing. So you can quite easily see a weapon carrying deity can be linked with Mars. That's something you can clearly call out. So Shani, Rahu, Ketu. Now, Ketu definitely linked with Ganesha for sure. Quite often, sometimes you see the sub deities like Kutichatan, you find Guliga and all that. Those kind of deities can also be linked with Rahu Ketu in Kerala. So you see that particular aspect also going on. Now, the deities who drink alcohol and all that can be linked with the tamasic deities also. So Rahu kind of deities are more like the deities who drink alcohol actually, which is very relevant because they protect the entire thing and all that. So they need family temple in Kerala. Guligan is supposed to be the protector, who's like the Bhairava actually. So you had to, it's like the Bhairava is equally important. So Bhairava is the one who makes sure the Devi is protected so that the prosperity can flourish actually. Very normal thing from that perspective. You see that. Then you have the Mercury Venus, which is basically the Rajasic deity, which is now in the realm of Vishnu and Lakshmi. So that is where you see. Now, quite often you might see normally the Rajasic deities are always encouraged actually in general. So Lakshmi and Vishnu are always encouraged. Quite often you will see the deities, it might not be Vishnu, but the deity will be having Sudarshan Chakra and Shankha actually. So quite often you'll see Narasimha with that depiction, Goddess Durga with that depiction. They are still the Rajasic deities actually. So they allow you to go upward, they also allow you to go inwards. Both are seen. They are in the middle. They are kind of the sustenance kind of thing. And Lakshmi is definitely linked with that aspect also. Quite often, Goddess Chandi, for instance, also linked with that. For Goddess Chandi is also considered to be more supreme also from that perspective. So that's also one more aspect. So the Rajasic deities are equally important. So the more deities who encourage movement, business activities like arts and so forth. That's very interesting when you talk to an artist. They can't stay still. They have to be active. They have to move around. That's an aspect you see. Like even business people also, they have to find a new product. They have to keep those sales going on. The marketing people and all that, right? So that kind of energy, you see that a lot actually. Now, Mercury, Venus will become the Rajasic deities. And finally, you have the Sattvic deities, which are more knowledge-oriented deities. Now, in general, from a Grahastha perspective, Sattvic deities are in general not encouraged that enough, because you feel like you've gone from the grasta thing. You feel like, okay, you know what, I just want to read my book and I'll be fine. Doesn't matter what happens to my wife, children, and all that. It's not a good thing actually. You have a responsibility, right? So quite often you find those Sattvic deities being worshipped by many sannyasi kind of people and all that. People are not longer in the world, are no longer involved in the world. So usually the Sattvic deities like Saraswati are there. No, usually the Mahavidyas and all that falls in this category. The Sattvic deities kind of thing, you find that. So Mahavidyas quite often is in the Maha thing. So they are also beyond the gunas also. So that's the other aspect. So Mahavidya, they always encourage not to get into Mahavidya sadhana directly. So they always encourage a karma from that perspective. Now, if you have nothing, you're a yogi, agori and all that, fine. Mahavidya is fine. That's the other aspect. But if you have a role, duty and all that, they encourage to the normal, any traditional Guru Parampara also, they'll always encourage a krama kind of thing. Actually. That's always encouraged. Actually. So even in the normal Sri Vidya thing also, you might have a 4 krama. In which now the interesting thing is that moment you have a krama of a devata, you find 3 or 4 aspects of the devata becoming same Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic, which is very interesting. So for instance, in one of Sri Guru's famous videos, he said how Bhairava is the Tamasic form of Shiva. You have the Nataraja, who is the Rajasic form of Shiva, and Dakshinamurti is the Sattvic form of Shiva actually. So that's a very direct thing. So the same deity, and quite often different sampradayas will have their own deities actually, and that each of the deities will have their own corresponding karma. So that finally you go through one, you do not start. You start with the deities you resonate with the most, depending upon what your current state is. So slowly, as the karma is followed, as your number of purusharnas increase and all that, slowly the Sattvic thing will also happen with that. Now, the interesting with sadhana in a horoscope question is very interesting and very important also in my view. Now, in my view, sadhana, of course, astrological indications for sadhana, different techniques are there. Some astrologers also look into the Vimshamsha chart, the D20 chart, and they look at the 5th house in the Vimshamsha chart, and they look at the planets in the 5th house, the 5th lord, to determine what kind of margas are encouraged. So usually, if you have a tamasic graha there, then now the Sattvic grahas are Sun, Moon, Jupiter. That's the other thing. I mentioned Mercury, Venus as Rajasic, and Sattvic grahas are Sun, Moon, Jupiter. So usually when you have tamasic grahas in the 5th house of D20 chart, they encourage the yoga marga, in which like you are moving your body and all that. You're kind of working with the body. You have to move your body kind of thing, because the dull state is there. So you have to work on that much more dominantly. The Kriya Marga is recommended when you have the Rajasic planets, like Mercury and Venus actually. Kriya Marga is where you're doing puja, havan and all that, normal Kriya Marga thing. And then you have the Vedanta Marga, like the more Vedic kind of thing, Jnana Marga kind of thing, when you have Sattvic grahas there actually. That is also one of the ways how they do it. Now, the other aspect which you actually see with and definitely that aspect is also there, in which you can approach it like that. Now, the role of sadhana in a horoscope is interesting thing. Now, usually, human karma is like, you can say, 3-dimensional karma or a 3-dimensional karma, 4-dimensional karma the most. You can call it like that. A god or goddess is basically considered to be like a 5-dimensional or a 6-dimensional being, depending upon the krama state and all that, where they are at. Usually, certain grahas, if your karma is very bad, so say you have a graha in the 6th house or the 8th house or the 12th house, these are called as the Dushtana houses in Jyotisha actually. Normally, that means that particular energy is not in a good place for you. So that energy, you have a 6th house is the house of service in Jyotisha. So if you have a graha there, that usually means that you have to serve the devata in some capacity. That's what it usually means. So this can mean like you have to do the service, like some kind of seva, some kind of Bhairav seva, for instance. So you have to do some kind of service. You have to be like a servant to that deity. That's the karma you have with that deity. 6th house kind of thing. Can be giving food. Can be giving the panchachana. Can be like a service kind of thing. The moment you have a particular planet in the 8th house is considered to be the house of death and transformation. Now that is a real planet. The only way to come out of 8th house through a real hardcore sadhana. That's something you see. Now, quite often, only 8th house is the house of death, actually. So, you have to transform that karma quite often. So, any planet in the 8th house, you will have to do the sadhana of that graha, or the god or goddess linked with that particular graha's energy, no matter what. So, that becomes a very important thing. I cannot say this enough. So, 8th house karma, the native will always face obstacles no matter what. I try to go for my dream job. Last minute, I'm having challenges. So all that typical situation in 8th house actually. Sudden ending, sudden death kind of thing happening because the karma is not great. The energy which you have allowed to go in, is not supportive for that desired outcome. So you have to do a sadhana in which your three-dimensional, four-dimensional karmas of a human karma, you're inviting the vibrations of five-dimensional energy, and slowly that energy is helping you to uplift that karma no matter what. So you're kind of able to transform that karma of that particular planetary energy karma by bringing the superior five-dimensional energy of that graha into your own sadhana. It becomes very important action. So that becomes important. And 12th house usually is indicating donation karma. So any planet in the 12th house, you have to basically donate towards a devata. So quite often when you see Sun, Jupiter and all that, you have to donate gold to a devata kind of thing can be claimed. Depending upon the Rashi and all that you can do. Now, of course, normal role of sadhana in the horoscope is very important in many ways. Quite often, the dominant graha in the chart, sadhana for that date, sadhana for that particular graha will always be important no matter what. And more importantly, the strongest graha in the chart can also be, so as I mentioned, exalt moon, you can do that kind of thing. The sadhana for the 6, 8, 12 planets, grahas also, the deities linked with that has to be done no matter what. Now, as some astrologers like to call, the 6th house are these houses are spending karma also. You are not cleared up the karma. And they'll just limit their discussions to like the human level karma. They'll say, okay, you're having problems and so forth. They'll basically say that. But the divine aspect, the higher dimensional expression of that particular planetary energy is not usually discussed. You actually have a karma. You have to serve that deity. You actually have to do a sadhana for that deity. You actually have to donate towards that deity. So it becomes a very important thing. And quite often the 12th house karma is a very important karma also in terms of dreams and so forth. Very normally, any planet in the 12th house, you'll have a dream of that particular devata. Very normal thing. So you see that particular aspect. Dream world also, you see that. Now, if you have a dream of a deity, then if you're not doing sadhana for the deity, how else is the deity going to come? Very important thing. You should usually I encourage to do that actually. If you have a deity who has showed up in a dream, no matter what, maintain some stotra or study for the deity, you will see that improves many other aspects. That's a very important thing no matter what. So like having that becomes very important also. No matter what, if the deity has decided to show up in a dream, now there are people who claim that okay, sometimes lower energies can also pick up the deity's thing and they'll also come through. However, at that point, if you deepen your own sadhana with the deity will definitely who dare to take up my form to trick this devotee of mine will happen. So the deity will take care of it no matter what. So no matter what, that's an important thing to consider also. So having full faith in the deity or the Ishtadevata becomes very, very important from that perspective. So no matter, even if a liar comes into face in with the deity's thing, you have to acknowledge the deity aspect of it more than the liar aspect of it actually, to be frank. It's a very important point. But as I said, the role of sadhana definitely, people approach sadhana normally to clear out their karmas actually, but having that dimensional understanding of karma is equally important. These gods and goddesses are pure five-dimensional, six-dimensional beings beyond the dimension of human karma. And the very important thing also is that it's a very normal thing in many established paramparas. So a sannyasi who gets invited, who's taken to a new parampara and all that, one of the first things that they do is that they burn the horoscope actually. Because now his karmas are completely gone. Now he has a new name, new identity, but he has a new birth chart also. So there are some sannyasis who go with the new birth chart of their parampara because that's the energy which is being chosen for them. That will be their destiny no matter what. So it's a new birth chart for them. Quite often, now this is a bigger thing for people who do sadhana. If you are doing sadhana of a deity, your deity will actually act as the first layer of protection for your karma. So there are some tantrics also who do the same thing. In tantric paramparas also, the moment you decide you pass the devata for this lifetime, you get the instruction from a guru. There are tantrics who will tear off the horoscope and say that everything is my deity. Now what actually happens is that you are building up that four-dimensional, five-dimensional energy field through your mantra sadhana. When the natural rhythms of four-dimensional, three-dimensional karma based on the human karma shows up, the four-dimensional, five-dimensional energy of the deity will start to mitigate that karma quite often. So one of the big things that I mentioned is that, usually you'll see there are certain time period when you're going through a tough time, you'll feel like I don't want to do my sadhana, or you're feeling that like why should I do this mantra today? And there will be days when you're doing your mantras and so forth, you will make mistakes on those kind of days. Well, karmically heavy days, you're going through a very tough thing in your office and you're feeling tired. Your mantras will go wrong, or you're not having that full focus and all that going on. Your karma, the deity is using that particular mantra, your sadhana vidhi, your japa vidhi kind of thing, to mitigate your karmas through that particular way. This is exactly how a deity would begin to calm down your karmas a lot. And moment when you make the correction and you correct your mantra in the correct, you correct that answer. Whatever be the step you made a mistake, you correct that further. Slowly you will see you are bringing that energy forward. So never mistake that. So everything happens for a reason, but there are many ways our deity can actually protect you also. So very normal thing. Like I said, if it can, a tantric will do that, and it's a very normal thing also. Now, of course, if you have default pretty heavy karma, then your own Ishta Devata is telling, okay, you need to go through this sometime, then you might have to seek the help of other Devata. It's not like you only have to stick with one deity and force that deity to do everything. Very normally, you will see that when you invite one particular deity's energy, quite often the similar planetary energies will come about very easily. A place where Bhairava mantra is chanting, very easily it can invite Kali energy. Very normal, tamasic energy kind of thing is happening. A place where Lakshmi mantra is being chanted, Vishnu energy can eventually show up. A place where Saraswati energy shows up, definitely the other bigger deities and other Guru energy can show up much more easily. And it's a very important thing to recognize also. So the sadhana, the role of sadhana in a horoscope is very important in many ways. Now you have to change the idea that your first when you begin your sadhana, it is the fundamental thing that happens with the sadhana is that you're transforming your own consciousness through your sadhana. That becomes an important thing. And the moment when you work with your sadhana, a big thing that happens is that the five-dimensional, higher dimensional energies, the vibrational energies of those deity begins to show up, and your karmas can be filtered through this particular energy vibration which you're building up. Very, very important thing. So mostly 95% of the astrology predictions is targeting people who don't do sadhana, to be frank. Or you're going through Sadhasat, it'll be a tough time. You're going through this Ashtamangala, tough time. You're going through like Rahu Ketu eclipse return or whatnot, tough time. But the moment you're doing sadhana, immediately it's a completely different thing. And this is a big thing. Like I share this story with many of my students. Like one astrologer actually recommended me to meet like a meditation teacher. Like he said, okay, meeting this meditation teacher will be good for you. Of course, I was normally going through my Jyotisha learning phase at that point in time. This guy was basically just doing nothing more than simple meditation. He was just doing, okay, meditate upon the sun and the heart, which let the light go outside. 3 days, this meditation. Then he basically shared how this astrologer met this guy, this meditation teacher. Apparently this teacher's wife went to the astrologer and with her husband's horoscope, and astrologer was start to make prediction. He should have this problem. He should have this accident. His sister should have had challenges and whatnot and all that. So I said, nothing what you say is true. Then the astrologer, either you are lying or your husband is doing some sadhana. Then the wife said, yeah, my husband is doing some meditation sadhana, this particular thing. I don't do it, but he does it kind of thing. That's how the astrologer, started recommending the meditation teacher. And so now this, again, I'm telling Kerala astrologer. So again, there is no mistake with these people. Usually it's like printed press words is what they say. Whatever word can be printed out, you can read their prediction. However, that man's symbol, that meditation teacher symbol, Surya-based sadhana is perfectly capable of purifying a lot of karma. So very important thing. So even there are normal Jyotisha thing that quite often some of the texts are targeting normal people actually. And predictions will apply for normal people for many cases. Now, does not mean that some events will happen to you or whatnot. However, the intensity of karmas can be significantly reduced if you have an Ishta Devata kind of thing going on. Now, that also depends actually. Now, depending upon the energy vibration of your Ishta Devata. Now, sometimes if you are doing Bhairav Sadhana, Rahu energy builds up very strongly. So then that deity can help you in purifying your Rahu karmas much more easily, without doubt. If you are doing the sadhana of Lakshmi, your Venus energy builds up very strongly. However, the Venus energy karma will be easily handled. Now, the moment if you're doing Lakshmi sadhana and then you're having a robber kind of thing, then situation in your home, then you will definitely need the energy of Kali or Bhairav kind of thing. And so forth. So quite often established sampradayas, that's why you have the concept of Ashtalakshmi kind of thing, even the Lakshmi sampradayas. There is a Gajalakshmi, there is a Vidya Lakshmi there. Dhairya Lakshmi and all that is there. That Lakshmi will at least make sure that aspect of Lakshmi comes in and protects you kind of thing usually happens. So a very important aspect is that whatever deity you pray to, you have to build up that energy no matter what. That fundamental Ishta kind of thing has to do. At the same time, the Krama will also help you in protecting your karma in a big way. So quite often the Guru Parampara will always be involved in that. Traditional Guru Parampara, this Krama is always taken care of. It's a very standard thing. Whatever be the Devata you are worshipping. So it's a very important point. So as I mentioned, you'll see this is an actual thing. Like when Jyotishis are trying to make predictions and for a sadhak and all, it can go wrong. Very normal. But need not be that a real Jyotish will be able to see that influence very quickly. Like, oh, this you are doing sadhana kind of, they'll be able to see that very clearly. Nimittas and all that will show up. Very normal kind of thing at that point in time. Auspicious nimittas can be called out. I mean, I remember one case, right? So I'm talking to one lady. Out of nowhere, like an eagle shows up in my balcony, like outside my window. An actual eagle sitting out there. I tell the lady like, okay, seems like Krishna likes you a lot. And she was like shocked. I mean, my whole life is Krishna and all that kind of thing. So that's the thing actually. So quite often you see that particular aspect. So it's a very important aspect actually. Now, definitely the sadhana helps you in mitigating karma. Sadhana helps you in harmonizing your karma depending upon the energy you're building up. If you're doing Mars energy level deity, tamasic deities will definitely protect you from Shani or Rahu karma. Now, however, you cannot demand Bhairav to give you money. That's not right. Bhairav is Rahu kind of energy. So karmically, he'll be like protecting you very fiercely. He can give you fame, name, recognition very easily. However, at the same time, inviting other energies is also always beneficial. The proper karma usually takes care of that. That's also very important. The Bhairava definitely will protect you, take care of you, help your progress of this thing, but you cannot demand your Devata to do things. So for instance, the famous thing in Tantric, they always say that do not treat your Devata as a servant. Very normal thing. You do not mitigate, you do not bring down the vibration of your deity to a servant. Of course, the deity is very intelligent, the deity knows what needs to be done and so forth, but I must say this actually. So, even to a Jyotisha also, the deity might guide you towards the right forces and all that kind of thing can happen. Quite often, exactly when you have a sadhana kind of thing, you will be drawn to temples and all that, which is required for you naturally. The deity will take care of that. That kind of thing usually happens. And but for that to happen, the vibration of the deity should be built up significantly. It becomes very important. It has to be a nitya thing. It has to be a daily thing. Only when that has happened and so forth. In fact, one of the things I was mentioning was that each year you do sadhana, if you know some Jyotisha, you're progressing through each house of your horoscope. So I believe in Shri Guru's video, he also mentioned like how 12 years in yoga, you are guaranteed enlightenment or sorts. Jyotish-wise, this perfectly is what is happening. So you see this particular aspect where like there are 12 houses, 12 signs. The first year you're doing a particular thing, you will actually purify the karmas of one house kind of thing. Second year when you're doing the sadhana, second house karmas improved and so forth. Now this can be this house number kind of thing can be done with not really in the time factor, it can be done with a number factor also. So the first time you're doing Purusharna, the first house kind of karmas can be improved. Second time you're doing Purusharna, second house karmas can be improved, kind of thing can also be said. So that's the other way also how you can see that. And you will see that karmas are clearly coming out. Now, one of the interesting things you will see is that when you start with the Purusharna of a particular deity, say you are doing a Sadhana Bhairava, look at the exact house where Rahu energies, Rahu's place in your chart. The moment that particular house is getting triggered in your sadhana thing, immediately you will see like karmas are, immediately you'll see what really karma, what Bhairava is capable of doing fully at that point in time. At the same time, you're doing Bhadragali Upasana. Look at exactly the sign where Mars is playing out, you'll see big results. Exactly that, when that Purushana of that particular house is happening, immediately you'll see big results. If you're doing like a sadhana for Vishnu or Lakshmi, look at the corresponding grahas in your chart. So you can identify that. So you cannot, like I said, you will definitely see an impact. But each time you go to do a Purushana, your sadhana intensifies and so forth, you can see mathematically how your karmas are also getting purified very easily. So you can slowly see how the five-dimensional energy of the deity is helping you to mitigate the four-dimensional karmas of the human existence much more easily. Very, very normal thing. And this can be done no matter what. You can apply this with Purusharna. So first time you go to a temple, first house. Second time you go to the same temple, second house. Same predictions can be made. And the moment when that deity's energy of that temple is linked with the house where that planet closely linked with that particular deity is linked, you will see how that karma is getting purified very easily. Karma can all that. First time still get big results because she's like linked with Aries and so forth. She's that directly Barney and all that. You can see that kind of thing. But this principle can be done many times. So there are temples when you go like Tirupati and all that. If you are able to, if at all you have the fortune of going to Tirupati 9 times or 12 times, astrology wise, you have promised great blessings. Because 9,000, 12,000 of the natural zodiac is ruled by Jupiter. Vishnu is Jupiter himself. The huge blessing you can see. If you are able to go to the Tirupati temple 4 times, the 4th time when you're visiting, Cancer is a sign where Jupiter exalts, so huge blessings from Tirupati Balaji can come exactly on that time. But the moment you get to 9 time, you'll see a new guru coming up, new book going up, new kind of knowledge coming your way, higher degree coming, all that kind of thing you can see. And that's a big thing actually. So the moment you do sadhana, your sadhana which you do is intricately linked with the karmas of your chart, without doubt. And not only that, your sadhana helps you in improving that karma also very deeply. Now, the moment when you moment when you apply the Jyotisha can be linked with your sadhana, it's a huge thing. So then you can be very clear. I remember someone who was doing, no, forget about Purshana, even if you do just like 1,000 times a mantra, or like even some people do like, 10,000 times and so forth. Some people do a mantra 10,000 times. Even if you do 1,000 times, you can look at what first house purification happening. You can see a different frequencies happening with that particular sadhana progression. Even if you do like 10,000 times a mantra, then you can see it's like a number thing. It's like a mathematical thing that actually plays out. You do 10,000 times, you do one mantra, first house gets purified. You can see a different effect playing out exactly the 10,000 mantra progressions. 1,000 times you're doing a mantra again, you at that progression you'll see a different kind of progression happening and so forth. So it's the moment you utilize Jyotisha as a mathematical thing, just like, oh, there's a number thing going on, you can see amazing results there. And I cannot emphasize this enough. It's a very normal thing, very simple thing, and you can do more with that. And as I mentioned, the moment you have a sadhana, depending upon the mantra you're chanting, you can see the highest effect of that mantra at the graha directly linked with the deity's energy. That's a big thing you can see also without doubt, and that's a huge thing. That's when you really see the power of the deity and all that very strongly. In fact, the moment you elevate the grahas to a devata, the whole karmic situation completely changes actually. Planet in the ninth. Okay, so I think I'm having power issues. Hopefully the power comes back. But anyway, so I was just telling that the moment the devata and all comes, you can see a lot more things going on. Yeah. So planet in the seventh house will be the deity whose blessing you have to seek out for from a marriage perspective, from a guru perspective, vidya perspective. The planet in the ninth house you'll have to get out. You'll have to get the blessings from. From a guru perspective, that deities and blessings can help you out a lot. Planet in the fourth house is a deity whom you'll have to worship in the home, no matter what. That kind of predictions can be said. That's a big thing. So sadhana is a very normal thing. In ancient time, this dimensional aspect of karma was understood actually. So not just a four-dimensional aspect of human Bhuloka karma, the higher dimensional aspect of karma, how it was linked, was also seen.
Santhip you mentioned Rahu in the sixth. So you mentioned sixth house and how based on which planet is there, you can, some say it's pending karma. So Archit and I will be little selfish here and request you to tell us what would happen in case Rahu is in the sixth house
Around the
and
sixth house
Ketu is in the
standard,
12th.
yeah, okay, around the sixth house standard Bhairav Seva, very standard Bhairav Seva, Seva towards Bhairava, Seva to Durga, Seva towards like Rahu like deities, Durga, and definitely Bhairav Seva standard thing. Around the sixth house also very strong to have a kavacha of Bhairava. That's also sixth house, eighth house, 12th house doing a kavacha mantra and all that is recommended. So Bhairava kavacha kind of thing is very good that I can really encourage. Usually the seva becomes very important. Sixth house is not that bad actually, but quite often sixth house is the karma where you have to face your enemies head on. So any kind of seeking the blessing of the deities before you face your enemy is recommended from that perspective. Ketu in the 12th house indicates a karma of Ganesha. So that's the other aspect. So donation towards Ganesha temple, Ganesha kind of, Aradhana, Visarjana of Ganesha is a must with Ketu in the 12th house. So Ganesha, normal Ganesha Tuti, Visarjana and all that should happen. All that I would encourage. The Rahu and Ketu. Rahu means sixth house is also routine. So that Rahu deity has to be part of your routine as well. And astrologers can claim that you have a pending debt, you have a debt towards that deity. So there is a past life where that deity might have helped you, but still something must be owed back to the deity. Perhaps you might be owing mantras, perhaps you might be ordering some other requirements, things like that. So that kind of thing can be claimed. Quite often, sixth house is the house of like weapons also. So some buy a weapon kind of thing can also be recommended. Now, this is the other aspect. Quite often, Rahu, when you donate a weapon to a Kshetram, the deity's energy increases no matter what. So it's a normal thing. Many weapons and all that goes to Kshetrams and all that. Even though the weapon, the deity will be holding just one sword. Some Bhairav temple will see multiple Trishul and all that. But that the weapon energy significantly increases in that Kshetra. Protection energy significantly increases in the donation of weapon happens. So the Sikh people and all that in the Gurudwaras, you see, they have mastered this principle. A lot of people donate, the weapons and the shield and the sword and all that. So they are very warrior-like, still warrior-like going on. That can be easy. But yeah, around the sixth house, definitely karma towards Durga can also be claimed, without a doubt. Karma towards Bhairava can be claimed. Definitely, Rahu is also very important karma with regard to, Ideally, I would say like eventually Mahavati also would show up, but Rahu can be elevated to Sahasrara Chakra also eventually with time. So the entire karma kind of thing will also show up with Rahu. Now, depending upon there is a link with Nagas also from that perspective. So link with Rahu, Ketu, Kerala where I'm from, Nagas are very important. So Rahu, Ketu are quite often linked with Sarpagraha, Naga. Wondering the Nagas would also equally become important at some point in time. So usually those kind of deities, like the sub deities kind of thing, would become important. Usually around the sixth house, great for like defeating enemies, as it's called. However, in some cases, the enemies will be like Rahu, like shadow beings, not so like normal ghost kind of thing and all that, very standard thing. However, the deity, the solution will be the deity link with Rahu, which is like Bhairava and Sivila, Bhairava, Durga, and all that. That'll be the thing. Usually, the challenge with Rahu in the sixth house is that it will have enemies. You'll be forced to deal with enemies no matter what. It's a karmic thing going on. So that you'll have to deal with, that you'll have to be okay with. But more importantly, if you're able to have a kavacha of a Rahu thing going on, it'll be very good. So kavacha is a normal part in most sampradayas. At least one kavacha you should be doing no matter what. That's something that's always encouraged. That should be done no matter what. If that is done, then no issues from that perspective. Actually, Rahu is a very important planet also in terms of the Naga energy and sub deities, as it's called. So the Rahu Ketu can be linked with your DNA of your ancestors. So Kuldevi and Kuldevam becomes very, very important in your Rahu. There's a depth which can be claimed by the Kuldevam kind of thing also from that perspective. A need to do seva for the Kuladevam or Kuldevata can also be claimed. The sixth house also from that perspective. The need to do donation towards the mother side, which can be Ketu, and the need to do seva or actual service, literally sweat and kind of thing in your father side of the temple can also be claimed with Rahu. Both can be claimed like that. So that is a big thing. And the real destiny towards Shakti and all that. Definitely Rahu Shakti also. That kind of thing. A real karma Shakta kind of thing can also be claimed also. All that kind of thing you can see with Rahu. It's a big thing. But at least from a deity perspective, I would encourage Kavacha of that Rahu like deity, like Bhairava and all that, no matter what. That should be done no matter what. That is done more or less things are great. And usually the other, to have a routine with that deity becomes important. That's a very important thing. So you have that deity has to be part of your routine. So the moment you have that going on, more or less you are fine. Whatever deities you have a routine in the sixth house, then more or less your problems are sorted out. So sixth house is a big obstacle between the fifth house and seventh house. Fifth house is the house of money. It's one of the Lakshmi Sthana. Seventh house is also the money of the house of wealth and fame also. So the house exactly that's allowing that, not allowing the money to give you fame, right? So that's the thing. So the sixth house also becomes important. So that I would encourage. Doing any kind of service also highly recommended with respect to Rahu. Rahu can also mean other beings also, like other living beings. Can be dogs, can be cats, all that. Having and taking care of a pet also helps out a lot with Rahu in the sixth house. Taking care of a blind dog and all that, right? Blind cat and all that. I had someone whom I knew did that actually. Took care of a blind cat. Amazing thing. Their life became amazing. No issue with marriage. Went smoothly. All that kind of thing you can see because they took care of a blind animal. So like a deformed animal kind of thing is what they usually say with Rahu. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Sandeep ji, I do have a question pertaining to the eighth house. If an important planet like your Atmakaraka or your Lagna Lord goes and sits in eighth house, then what can be expected and what are the remedies generally a sadhaka or a upasaka should do?
Usually the eighth house kind of thing becomes very important house in terms of sadhana perspective, as I mentioned. The only way to come out of eighth house is the sadhana. Quite often what happens in the eighth house is there has been a sadhana banga as has happened. So they started a sadhana, they did not finish that sadhana. That's what usually happens in the eighth house because between the eighth house, the house after the eighth house is ninth house actually. And quite often that means the Guru Pateva Shah was not fully followed. That's a challenge actually. So quite often, 8th house is 12th from the 9th house of Guru. The feet of the Guru is a refuge. The standard thing for plans in the 8th house. That's the first thing. You have to find a Guru, find a trainer, find a Mantrobresha Guru, find like this thing and all that. That usually I would encourage. 8th house usually, it's very important to sadhana for Grahapa in the 8th house. Now, 8th house also definitely it means that the karma is already fallen actually. So there are usually big interruptions can happen because of multiple lifetimes of sadhana bunk kind of thing can be played. Depending upon the graha, that particular deity sadhana will help you out a lot. Starting with the normal namavali, then stotram, then kavacham and all that if you're able to learn. Usually the stuti, stotram and all that highly recommended from that perspective. At least starting out that is a good thing. The other aspect is that the 8th house usually indicates like, 8th house usually is a karma of death and death kind of thing. Actually. Death insurance kind of karma usually happens. In a human term, like doing the helping out someone, helping out family going through death process always helps. Or like sponsoring the smashan kind of thing and all that, right? Sponsoring the burial and all that for some people and all that, that helps. But 8th house usually indicates like a very intense karma kind of thing going on. That a moment samadhi like experience. There are cases where you have done the sadhana, but then you could not complete it for some reason or the other. So either because of your own karma or because you decide to, you are not prepared enough for the sadhana and all that. Those kind of things. I remember one person with Jupiter, Ketu in the Scorpio sign. I don't remember the house actually, but Scorpio is a natural 8th of the zodiac. I told him like you might have stopped a sadhana, you might have interrupted the sadhana eventually. He said that yeah, he joined like a Buddhist monastery. He quit the Buddhist monastery, eventually became a Taoist priest or something like that. Something like that. So you can see that sadhana bunk kind of thing going on. So usually a sadhana has to be developed. For a sadhaka, I would really encourage 8th house kind of thing to know. There is one more thing where they say a sadhana should be done privately or secretly. Or whatever be the graha in the 8th house, you should not make the public know about it. So you should go to do the sadhana privately, go to the temple of the deity privately. That helps out a lot. And quite often 8th house also the karma, sometimes nighttime sadhana and all that usually is said with the 8th house actually from that perspective. So doing a sadhana in the night time, like during Brahma Muhurta is highly recommended with that act. That's something I would, the Brahma Muhurta or after the sunset kind of thing can also be recommended. That's also one more thing I would say. 8th house is a big thing. Jyotisha can be linked with 8th house. Now let's put it this way. Jyotisha right now is linked with 8th house. Exactly I was said. Jyotisha right now is linked with 8th house. There used to be a time when Jyotisha was linked with the 9th house. Jyotisha was linked with the 5th house. Jyotisha was linked with the 7th house. Jyotisha was linked with the 1st house. There used to be a time like that. But right now, Jyotisha is linked with the 8th house. It's an occult karma. It's a sadhana karma from that perspective. So usually the 8th house indicates, now if you have a graha in the 8th house, that means that whatever be the graha as I mentioned, if it's a tamasic graha, rajasic graha, sattvic graha, you will have to do some sadhana for that. That is what will actually help you to overcome the fortune or invite fortune energy to in your life much more easy. That has to be done. Either you follow like some guru or follow the instructions under a guru who has that mantra thing. That's what would encourage. But usually 8th house is that it was not that bad actually. Just that you'll have to go through a sadhana and thing and all that much more easy. If you have that sadhana thing going on, it'll be fine. 8th house is usually linked with death and destruction. That is true. However, for a sadhaka, that's a normal thing. Death of your ego is a normal thing when you're connected with the deity and all that. It's a normal thing. So they have to be willing to go through that transmission and everything much more easily. Now, there is a karma with the Devatas, as I mentioned. So that becomes very important also with planets in the 8th house. Like you have to do a sadhana for that deity. You have to do the worst case scenario, at least start with the mantra of the grahas. That is, those are very safe to do. Don't do the tantric mantras of the grahas. Normal, do the Om Shanishraya Nama mantra and all that. That will help out a lot. That's the starting point. What is the mantra? The vibration of the grahas when they slowly develop, then the other deities who can help you out will show up back. It's a normal progression of sorts. But graha mantras are very good to start off with, no matter what. That I would really encourage. And very normal. You do 1 year of Shani mantra, suddenly Hanuman Bhakt is telling you something and all that. Normal, that kind of thing will happen. But that's a very important aspect. So grahas have their own karakas. So I mentioned how grahas are linked with certain devatas, but the grahas have their own karakas. So quite often Shani is linked with servant, Shani is linked with Hanuman. Now you do Hanumanji sadhana a lot, you're getting good servants in your life. So of course, very normal. Shani energy is improving significantly. You do like Lord Ram mantra, Sun linked with Lord Ram. You do a Ram mantra a lot. Your government authority, your boss thing is improving significantly. Your own authority and all that is improving significantly. Sun kind of mantra, Shiva mantra, Ram mantra and all that helps out with that. So of course, if the Devata wants you to know something, the Devata will use the Karaka of the Graha linked with the Devata more directly in your life. If Hanumanji wants you to know something, Hanumanji will use a servant to make sure you know about it. If Lakshmi ji wants you to know something, Lakshmi linked with Venus, your wife will be the first one to tell you about this fact. That becomes an important thing. So a very important thing is to make sure the Karaka of the Graha or the human Karakas linked with the Graha is also honored. That's very easy. Very, very important thing. So definitely you do not ignore the human thing. If you are doing a mass deity mantra, your friends, your siblings will be the first people who will actually help you out during a situation. That's how the Devata will know, will let you know I'm here taking care of you kind of thing. With Rahu like deity, with Bhairava and all that, complete stranger, complete foreigner. Other people from other community and all that will completely help you. Online and all that, you're getting great support, things like that. Easily you can see that kind of thing going on. If you have like a Jupiter, then you'll see the mentor like people who are teachers, trainers kind of thing. Your gurus in your life is actually helping you out a lot. That kind of thing. Now, of course, you have a planet in eighth house. They always encourage not to have big expectations of the karakas linked with the planets in the eighth house. So if you have any planet in the eighth house, just approach it like that. Be okay with the things suddenly up and down kind of thing going on. That's completely fine. Eighth house is usually like a not a stable house actually. So there are quite often they say when we become adults, we have friends that are when we are like from college years and all that, we have friends up to college years, then we have adult life going on, then people come and go actually depending upon our own path and all that. It's a normal thing, so it's very important to be open to that. But as I mentioned, the devatas are clearly the human karakas of the grass can help you to identify the devatas influence much more easily. You should not ignore that. Like if you are like, as I mentioned, if you're a Devi Upasaka, suddenly like a random lady is telling you something, that is the Devi talking to you through that lady. You have to approach it like that. If you're a Shiva Upasaka, a man is telling you something to do, you cannot ignore that. So it becomes very important actually. And you will see that's the karaka also gets purified with that sadhana of the devata which you're doing. A very standard thing and so forth. And the moment you have that sadhana thing, you'll see those are the people who will help you out a lot. Like you're doing Kali mantra, suddenly an older lady is helping you out. Out of nowhere, actually. You just come out, okay, yeah, better yellow types kind of thing. You'll actually see that. And that becomes very important, actually. So definitely the human relationships in a life, in your direct blood relatives will become definitely one layer how the Devata will immediately let you know things, how that karma will be purified, how that energies will be purified kind of thing. But of course, that planetary karakas will be also directly. Say you have a blessing of Mars energy like Murugan, Kartikeya, or Hanumanji, or goddess Bhadragali kind of thing, you might suddenly see your land problems and getting sorted out very easily. Then suddenly you meet the karmas of goddess Kali will be purified through like a Mars person carrying more Mars energy. Suddenly you're trying to do a Kali puja, obstacle to a karma will show up as a military man or military man's wife or neighbor policeman or something will show up as an obstacle. A policeman talking to you, that's the direct goddess Kali is talking to you. You cannot ignore that. That kind of thing. The moment you have that particular perspective, that karma, that you begin to see how that the Jyotisha Karka was just a simple, you start off with a three-dimensional aspect. The moment you elevate the dimensional aspect, you cannot ignore that, which is exactly what is going on. Goddess Kali wants to protect your thing. Interaction with the army and police is very normal. You're doing Vishnu Pasana and all that. Very normal for your uncles, your cousins, your friends, neighbors, and all that karma to be the way how that karma is getting improved on. So very directly use that. So quite often you're doing specific Devata sadhana, you will see very specific people showing up in your life exactly around that sadhana. And you'll see that very normal thing. It's in a normal Jyotisha scheme of things. When you're doing the Graha mantra, you'll see this happening very easily. Only when you're doing the mantra, suddenly people are contacting you and all that, you'll actually see that. When the Purusharna is going on, you'll see that's when this particular new kind of karma is coming up. But that the overall energy or the dominant, the Graha energy of the Devata will be how it will be purified through the Karakas of that particular Graha. Now, for a normal Upasaka, this is a normal thing. Like Hanumanji, when you're doing Mars mantra, your friends will show up more actually. It's a very normal thing. When you do like Shani mantra and all that, you'll find people who are reliable kind of thing for you. There is a stage in your own sadhana when these kind of grahas are normally taken care of. So you do a mantra for a long time, that mantra matures to a point, the graha karmas are slowly taken care of. The Devata will send you an assistant eventually with time. The Devata will help you a very good thing. You might get a supportive person in your life and all that. Very easily you will see that kind of thing going on. So quite often you will see new people showing up in your life based on the sadhana which you're doing as well. And that can be linked. Jyotisha becomes very powerful at that point in time. You can see it how very purely how that will happen also with Jyotisha. That I cannot say right now. And you will see different grahas will purify very specific human relationships in your chart. You can even evolve that to like countries and all that also with time. So eventually that graha thing is there also. So usually you can say Shani linked with Slavic people, with Russia and all that you can see. Rahu being linked with like more Latinos and so forth, or more foreigner kind of thing. Western people in general is Shani kind of thing. Mars is usually the African people and all that. Chinese people are usually sun. Japanese and all the sun you can see. There are different things you can see that also. When the moment you will start a mantra jap, you start a Japaviti kind of thing, immediately pay attention to who are the new people in your life. 100% that is linked with the sadhana which you are doing, without a doubt. Especially people, human people and all that, very normal. Just like how for an organ has multiple cells, which is allowing that organ to function, the Devatas also allowing that particular Devata's energy to function through specific energies, or human beings carrying that energy of the Devata, or reflecting the energy of the Devata in this Bhuloka. Kali is the protector of law, but she is protecting the law through policemen and army people. Actually, how can you ignore an army man or policeman coming your way? And so in fact, it is considered a good nimitta for Kali. You will see like a policeman, and army man, and all that. In Kodungalur temple, there's an observation. Kodungalur Badali temple, you have Kodungalur temple. You want bar immediately left of the temple, which show the Rahu energy there. Like the temple is still very having a bar thing, which shows the Rahu energy is very strongly there in temple. Immediately next to that, you find a Kodungalur police station also. It's a direct mark. So you can see that. So you cannot ignore that. Now, forget about that. There's a law college there also. Then it's very perfect card. So quite often the temples carrying the energies of the deities will reflect the energy of the deities around it. Without a doubt. You can see that very often. Just look at what is happening. Man. Look at a temple close to your neighborhood and all that. You'll be amazed to see those kind of things. It has to happen like that. Every city with a major Desha Devata, as they call it, will reflect the energies of the Desha Devata no matter what. That is a big thing. And this is a big thing you'll see. So when you're doing the sadhana for a particular deity, that particular Desha Devata from that land, someone from that, so you're doing Kali mantra, you're doing Durga mantra. Some Bengali will contact you and you'll have a connection like that. Very normal thing actually. If you're doing some like Shiva mantra, like some Jyotirlinga person, one of the Kashi person might contact you and all that. You're doing Ram mantra, UP person might contact you. So that's a very normal thing actually. You're doing like all the, the Krishna mantra, suddenly a Madra person, Gujarati person is contacting you. You're doing Ganesh mantra, Mumbai person will contact. Very normal thing. So because that Desha Devata will carry, the Desha will carry the energy of the Devata also quite easily. But as I said, you can extend that to the entire world. Entire Bhuloka kind of thing, you can extend that Devata link. And you cannot, and believe me, that can be done. The moment this kind of thing will only come your way only if you're doing sadhana. If you're doing sadhana, can you even observe these kind of things happening actually? Because then you're seeing, okay, God help me out in this situation, but the help will come through these kind of exactly, as I mentioned, many various ways from that perspective. Okay.
So Santhipji, you had also no. It was brilliant. No, I think it was pretty heavy as well because observing is one thing, interpretation is a totally different ball game.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's important to, in my opinion, it's fine to make notes of observation. Jyotisha definitely is a link with the grahas of Mercury and Jupiter. So definitely there is a Mercury aspect, just write it down. Jupiter, think about it, contemplate about it. Very normal thing actually, and you'll see immediately that patterns will come through. It's as simple as that. The moment when you start to make observations, you write it down, you look that up, contemplate upon it, you'll be amazed actually. Now see, here the other aspect. Now Jyotisha, when you have a sadhana, when you have a deity, the deity can teach you Jyotisha. That is it. Bhairav and Kali is very famous for teaching a specific kind of Jyotisha also. There's an entire stream of Jyotisha link with Bhadragali, entire stream of Jyotisha link with Hanumanji. Hanuman Jyotish exists, that's a different thing. Quite often when you pray to the deity to get you the Jyotisha knowledge, you'll be amazed. And that is I cannot emphasize. Now, of course, the Tamasic deity will give you the Tamasic side of Jyotisha knowledge very easily. Rajasic deities will give you the Rajasic side of Jyotish knowledge very easily. Sattvic deities will give you an overall Jyotish knowledge very, very easily. You pray to Lakshmi to get Jyotish knowledge. Lakshmi will give you stock market pricing, gold pricing, predictions and all that very easy. Like you based on Jyotisha kind of thing. You pray to Bhairava, you will see easily, how you can protect your enemies, when is the best time to attack in issues and so forth and all that. When you connect with Saraswati, you'll get big kind of things also. Overall thing and all that will happen. Usually in general, they have a Sattvic approach to Jyotisha. Many of the Shastras are always linked with the Sattvic side of things without doubt. The Jnana Marga, as it's called. However, without doubt, the Tamasic deities have also have their own Jyotish knowledge. Bhadrali and all that will actually help you to identify a strong challenging time periods and all that very easily. So there is that aspect can also be seen. When you work with a Tamasic deity, when the problematic time periods are coming much more easily when you're doing that. And believe me, that can be done. All deities are having, as I mentioned, the Krama thing is already there. So all deities are capable of helping you to reach the highest knowledge also from that perspective. Jyotisha, only when you're doing sadhana will Jyotish come alive also to be found. A sadhaka is more likely to see these things more than a normal person also from that perspective. Because without doubt, it's a conscious thing. Jyotisha is also a very powerful way to purify your consciousness also, without doubt. And the deepest realm of consciousness is where like the deeper dimensions of consciousness where the actual gods and goddesses reside actually. So they are all waiting actually. Quite often and seen like, you'll be amazed actually. Like people who worship Bhaira and all that, the kind of Jyotisha they come out is like very amazing. Like, I cannot say that enough. So, and they'll have a different, their Rahu level of Jyotisha will be very great. They'll be capable of predicting like Rahu like events very easily. Big trends and all that they can easily predict. That kind of thing is very good. So if you're doing Hanumanji Jyotisha, easily you can predict Mars kind of teams very, very easily. Things like that exist actually, by the way. So the deity, there is a blessing of each deity is upon the Jyotisha Vigyan also, without doubt. I cannot say that. Each deities have their own Jyotisha also from that perspective. That is a very normal thing. So you see this in very local, regional variations in Jyotisha kind of thing going on. So like the different parampara variations exist. As I mentioned, Vaishnav paramparas will have their own Jyotisha thing going on, their own energies being maintained. Shaiva paramparas will have their own Jyotisha thing maintained. Shakta paramparas will have their own Jyotisha thing being maintained. Very normal thing as far as Jyotisha is concerned. Very normal because it's an energy thing in the end. So that's why that's one of the reasons why Jyotisha has flourished a lot. Actually. So having said so, even though they have their own systems, Kerala still is unique in the terms of Ashtamangala Prashna and all that. So that still exists now. Now there are cases where they have this kind of knowledge was norm in many parts of the world. Like in definitely in various parts of India, there used to be like a Prashna kind of aspect before temples also. That was there. Right now Kerala is having a living tradition because of its unique thing. However, that was the norm in India no matter what. There was a time like that. That kind of thing is for sure. So different parts of India have their own unique Jyotishi. That kind of thing is also there. And depending upon the sadhana of the Devata you are doing, that will also show up in your Jyotisha also. Very normal thing from that perspective.
So Santhip ji, before we get to the technical questions, we have kind of laid down the groundwork. Last, so dear viewers, we'll of course have noted your questions. Once Santhip ji covers whatever we have noted down, we will take up a few questions, time permitting. So Santhip ji had mentioned about Tirupati temple, for example, and how if you visit each time you visit, what happens. So you also made a reference to Ma Kamakhya, who represents Aries. So that kind of caught my attention. So quite a few in our circle have Moon and Ketu in the 12th in the Aries Rashi.
So there are two ways of timing things. So to subtle level of that is that the first house will always be activated the first time you go to any temple. So that is always there. So if it's one thing, it's different. So but at the same time, Aries is the natural first house of the zodiac. The first time you go, there will be a Moon Ketu kind of instance happen. So Moon Ketu kind of karma will get purified. Family karma, mother and all that get purified. That kind of thing you can see. Moon Ketu also shows a past leveling happening actually with that land. So usually an obstacle has to show up is what they say, because Moon Ketu is getting purified there. But then when you go there first time, immediately the Moon aspect also gets purified. So whatever houses Moon rules, family karma improves, past life karma improves, sadhana karma improves, all that kind of thing can be claimed. The first time you're going with Moon Ketu in Aries. So whatever planet is placed in Aries will be activated very strongly. Usually Moon is also very much strongly linked with property, house and all that. So that's usually they say actually. So usually when you have things happening with regard to real estate, property and all that, so it's one of those karma that gets purified. Moon is also quite often linked with like, leadership also. Moon is also like a ruling planet. Moon is the queen as it's called, or the state level leader as it's called. So that kind of karma also improves significantly. Moon Ketu you can see improves like that. Ketu is a very powerful thing for moksha though. Ketu is famously called as moksha. Though all grahas have their own moksha ways. Very important. All grahas can definitely help you to attain towards moksha. All grahas are grahas in India. They are all aspects of Vishnu as it's called. Devatas can be linked with specific grahas. Without doubt, each devatas can take you towards moksha no matter what. But as I mentioned, they'll take it in their own ways. That is it. But Ketu is very famous from that perspective. Ketu is quite often linked with flag and all that. Flag kind of karma, past life karma. Ketu is also quite linked with the deep sadhana, past life sadhanas, all that kind of thing gets triggered. And usually, like whatever energies that might have been encountered after that visit to Kamakhya, without doubt, you can say that whatever followed after that would have been a past life thing coming up. And quite often, this can show up with people from a different race kind of thing as well. May not be the same race with Ketu kind of thing. That is also one of the ways you can see. And these are all very subtle things. but you will begin to see a pattern happening like that. So Ketu is like a sutra, like a thread. So there's a thread kind of karma that is coming up. There is an aspect of a mantra that when it gets deeper, becomes a thread slowly guiding you towards a divine act. That aspect is Ketu act. So that's a very important thing. So that kind of karma would also be triggered actually. Some mantra, deeper dimensions opening up. Very standard thing with Ketu. Rahu Ketu is also famous for multi-dimensional karma, like multi-janma karma and all that. So all those kind of things get triggered. So Moon Ketu in Aries is a very strong point. Karma with family is usually what gets purified. That's what you see when you go with Moon Ketu in Aries kind of thing. So that's one way of looking at things. So definitely two ways karmas will play out. The first house to second house kind of karma progression will happen. The Aries, the Taurus, Gemini progression can also happen. So both progressions are perfectly valid progressions also, which you can see. Both the ways the karma will also get purified. That kind of thing also you can see going on.
The amount of Rahu and Ketu we are discussing in this podcast is amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. It has to be discussed. Rahu Ketu is what you have to purify no matter what. The big thing about sadhana itself is Rahu Ketu. The whole point of sadhana is developing a Shakti, which is Rahu act. Rahu is a unique planet. If you see, Rahu gives the behavior, gives the results of the planet, the Rashi where it's seated in, the planet it is with it, and all that. The whole point of Kundalini sadhana, any kind of mantra sadhana, you are elevating your Rahu energy, taking all the way to Sahasrara chakras. What is the basically definition of a krama in the end? Exactly that. So the moment you're building up the Rahu energy, you have to purify your Rahu. Now, anytime you do a sadhana, though, your Rahu starts to get purified. A deity shows up and all that, your Rahu will be purified no matter what. It's very important. So Jyotisha, definitely they'll consider Rahu as being linked with Jyotisha because of that. Jyotisha is called as the Para Vidya, linking the unseen world with the seen world. Actually. So definitely Rahu. So initially you do not understand some aspects of the divinity, but eventually when you see, okay, there's a thread of karma, all that coming up, then the Rahu kind of thing gets purified. And quite often, not everyone is capable of discussing Rahu Ketu. Only people with sadhana or the deity of Rahu Ketu is only capable of talking about Rahu Ketu. That's a very big thing also. Very important thing to recognize. So that's a big thing. So Jyotisha, when you look at that also, you'll see specific sadhakas are able to talk about specific aspects of Jyotisha much more easily. A very direct thing, actually. And immediately you know, okay, this energy is very strong, this Devata is very strong, that kind of thing from that perspective. And it should never be ignored. That Jyotisha without Devata is a big mistake. Like you're missing out on a lot, like, in my opinion. So that should be taken care of. So it's a very normal thing. So like specific Devatas will ensure specific kind of topics coming through. And usually, as I mentioned, Rahu Ketu is very strongly linked with Naga energy. Naga energy is the Bhairav energy also, quite often. Both are linked. In North India and all that, what they call as Bhairav, in Kerala and all that, strongly called as Naga. Sarpa and Rahu Ketu and all that very strong. There has been a vilification of Naga going on for a long time. Vilification, they're bringing the Nagas down. They have brought them down. So nowadays, a lot of other gurus are bringing the Naga thing much more to the front. But Nagas are someone you don't want to mess with. I believe the only reason why Prashna and all that is still going on in Kerala is because Naga shrines are to be planned. Ashtamangala is a very 8 kind of, anything 8 is a Rahu and Shani actually. So Rahu and Shani are linked. So anything Ashtamangala and all that is a pure Rahu based high level Jyotish technique going on. If Nagas were not there without doubt, I don't think it will be surviving Kerala to be planned. The moment the Nagas are getting destroyed, the moment the final Naga thing is going on, even the Prashna and the astrology that is coming with them will also be lost. Without doubt, I can say that for sure. Yeah, but it's a good point, RCG. Like I said, it's a sadhana thing. You have to look into that. Yeah. Okay, great. Go ahead, Anirudh.
Man, that's actually a brilliant observation, Archit. I missed that. We have predominantly been speaking a lot about Rahu Ketu. Thank you for bringing that up. Santhipji, so this is something we have had a couple of conversations about this date, and we have a lot of news on multiple social media platforms, a lot of predictions about the Shatagraha Yoga coming up and the date. What are your thoughts? And Archit, I would request you to lead on this aspect because you also have done a fair bit of reading on this. So over to you, Santhipji.
Yeah, Archit, go ahead. What did you have in mind with regard to this date?
So, just wanted to know one question I was having. The babies who would be born on that particular date, what sort of future those people will be having? So, a lot of grahas, there could be some graha yuddha also going on their charts, and 6 grahas sitting in one house, and particularly throughout the day, babies who would be born would be having those 6 planets sitting in various houses. How would that impact their whole lives, basically, from sadhana perspective?
Yeah, so The important thing that is happening on that day is that Shani is moving into Pisces Rashi, Meenam Rashi on that day. It's also interesting because that's also the day when the solar eclipse also happens. Now, usually when you are born with a solar eclipse, that means you have done some serious sadhana and all that is what they usually say. Some Rahu kind of forces you have encountered. So that's the reason why you're born exactly around solar eclipse time period. For some normal people, for normal human chart kind of karma and all that, usually they call it as like the Dosh kind of thing, born around an eclipse kind of thing. On that, or basically the sadhana thing, actually. So they have done sadhana kind of thing. And so what is what it usually means. Now, Grahan, children are born on Grahan, but sometimes the people born on Grahan are capable of achieving great heights and great fame also. So that's a typical thing that happens. So quite often you see some people with Grahan dosh in the chart become very famous influencers, celebrities. So for a very normal thing, it's one of those things you see. Now but the other interesting thing which you mentioned, Archiji, is that as you mentioned, 6 graphs are there and all that. So definitely babies are born with those on that day will have their own big kind of karma. Whatever Pisces theme is going to happen will be very big. So that means a lot of ashrams will be built in the future as they are present. A lot of spiritual practice will happen. A lot more escapist tendencies will also happen. So this will be like a lot of gaming, a lot of like World of Warcraft kind of thing going on. So people in the West, that kind of thing will increase significantly. Like virtual reality, VR kind of thing will increase significantly. All that. One of the things I was telling now after that there was a big thing that happens with Shani meeting Rahu and all that. So in another video, I was kind of making a remark that could be a big thing from a humanity perspective and all that. So I was kind of hinting at how the United Nations and all that will have big challenges kind of thing going on. So like the UNO, big organizations, all that will have some big challenges and so forth. So of course, Donald Trump's coming up is bringing up a lot of uncertainty to these kind of organizations also. That is one aspect. The other thing also with Shani Rahu can mean you're coming to terms with the aliens kind of thing also. Now, whatever that means, so whatever that means, whether it's immigrations in your land or whether it's foreign beings from other dimensions, whatever, or Devatas from other dimensions and all that, that can be, what you said. Now, usually the other aspect is that Shani Rahu, Shani being on that day, you see Shani being in Pisces, it's from a yogic perspective, next couple of years for a sadhana perspective is huge. Any kind of charity you do, any kind of sadhana you do, will be pretty amazing. Very strong, actually. You can actually overcome a lot of subconscious karmas in a very, very deep level with Shani going into Pisces, actually. So you're going to see like an entire that particular generation, at least the kids born on that day, definitely they are carrying very intense Pisces karma. A lot of intense spiritual karma can be created. And now the great thing about that is that even though the Graha Yuddha and all that is happening, the planet that gets exalted in that Graha is still there. Exalted Venus is still there, actually. So finally, that usually indicates like there is a big Devi thing going on, no matter what. So it's usually like a Lakshmi kind of thing. So that's a big Lakshmi thing. Financial situations will go through a big transformation and all that is what it usually means, actually. Now, the other interesting thing is that depending upon your karma with Pisces is also quite often with Mahavishnu in Kerala astrology. So we were beginning to see like big change in how Mahavishnu will be coming into the pictures and so forth. Now, not in a Kalki avatar kind of way, but Vishnu's energy influence will become very important. So famously, if you carefully observe what happened this past year or so, Tirupati Balaji Laddus became a big uproar kind of thing for many people. But you could still consider that as Balaji showing like, okay, what's happening with my Laddu kind of thing going on. And still now that has awakened a lot of people actually. So that kind of thing, that immediately woke up a lot of people, a lot of changes start to happen. So you're going to see a lot of Vishnu being put to use kind of thing, a lot. Vishnu will definitely, Vishnu's energy, Vishnu sadhana, a lot more Vishnu's and Jupiter energy kind of thing you're going to see for sure. Now, some astrologers have predicted that a lot of fake gurus will be cleared out. Pisces being a sign of ashrams and all that, Shani coming to Pisces can mean ashram that should not be there, Shani will clear that out. At the same time, the other grahas being there can create new kind of ashrams can also be brought in also. That kind of thing can also happen. So new kind of ashrams being improved upon, expansion of ashrams, all that kind of thing can also be created. So that's the duality aspect of Pisces. Now Pisces is also a sign where they say you kind of they say that almost all the signs converge towards Pisces is what they say. So all that 11 signs qualities can be claimed in Pisces. To the point where you go around and around for a long time is what they say with Pisces. So that a lot of people are going to get confused and all that kind of thing can be claimed. Now, one thing I would though definitely say is that if at all any kind of charity can be done for the next 2 years, it would be great. More importantly, when on this day and all that, if you're visiting a Hanuman temple, excellent thing to do. Shani and all that is linked to Hanuman, Shani temple, very good thing to do, no matter what. Other aspect I would encourage also is to do some kind of mantras before you go to sleep, because Pisces also linked with sleep. Not many people realize, but your karmas can be purified in sleep. In fact, as I mentioned, Devatas can give all kind of knowledge through your sleep. Actually, sometimes you'll be amazed. Like I was listening to one person saying, like a Western spiritual teacher sort of saying, like if you pay attention to like a song which you saw in a dream, or for some reason that song has been going on in your mind for a long time, you just meditate upon the song, you listen to that song again and again and again until that devata finally shows up, kind of thing. So sometimes that knowledge and information can be passed on to real objects in dreams, kind of thing. So if any temple devata and all that shows up in a dream for the next 2-3 years, it's a huge opportunity to clear off huge karmas actually. And I cannot say that now. Of course, the Jyotirlinga link with Pisces is Triambakeshwar. Any kind of visit to Triambakeshwar and all that is a very big deal. This next 2 years, I cannot say that enough. Also, usually the 12th house also linked with the feet actually. So the feet kind of thing might change a lot. So a lot of disabled people start to walk. All the robotics around that will all that happen. That kind of thing will be to see. The other aspect is also, as I mentioned, the feet of a guru will become more important actually. So that kind of thing will also become very, and a lot of refugee kind of come already that has started actually. Like with Trump and all that, you see a lot of refugees are coming through and all that. So that kind of issues. So in India also you might see that kind of aspect going on. So 12th house kind of thing is refugees and so forth, foreign land kind of karma. Now of course every planetary transit will come with its own good side and its own challenging side. Both is always there. So that is always there. So no need to be worried about things. Challenges will always accompany the good things no matter what. So just to keep in mind actually. But no matter what, at least the good thing with Pisces is that because it's a moksha sign, a sadhana you do right now can definitely direct you towards moksha and all that in a big way. And you will be amazed actually. And one of the best things to do during this time period is to make sure you're doing the Sashtang Pranam, like full on Pranam kind of thing in any temple you go to. More than that, you are Shani in 12th house, more than enough to be frank. That will calm down a lot. If you're feeling like no matter what, I'm worried about all things, every day do a Sashtang Pranam in your own mandir, in your own puja room in your home. When you go to any temple, do a Sashtang Pranam, the perfect Shani in the 12th house. And of course, the normal yogasana, shavasana, and all that you can always do. That helps out a lot actually during this time period. But we are going to see the explosion of this spirituality kind of thing happening in a big way. Shani brings about that. Then you will make sure a lot of gurus who have been hiding will come to the front. That will definitely happen. And a lot of ashrams, as I mentioned, will definitely have a big thing going on no matter what with Shani. So from a spirituality perspective, sadhana perspective, best time period. Yogis are waiting for this transit act. Yogis are waiting for Shani Rahu kind of conjunction and all that in a big way. That I cannot say that. Yeah.
So, Sandeep, this brings naturally to the next topic. So, Shani's Gochara through Meena Rashi, you kind of touched upon it. But as I was telling you, there's not enough information where Shani is the Atmakaraka and Sadhisati. So, how would you reflect a little bit on that?
So Sadhisati usually is Shani as Atmakaraka. Atmakaraka is a Gemini astrology concept where they say the planet of the highest degree is where you see, that's where your soul is strongly familiar with. It's definitely a very important idea in Gemini astrology. Now, of course, very valid point and so forth. Different schools of thought are there with regard to how you decide upon Atmakaraka or that is there. However, when Shani is Atmakaraka, usually they say there is a real karma service, real karma law, real karma a tamasic deity like Shani, like deity and all that. That's a real karmic thing there. And more importantly, that deity will help you out a lot in terms of your own spiritual sadhana. So that's a very good thing. As you mentioned, Anirudh, you said that all the Batuk Bhairav Sevaks in your group has Shani as Atmakaraka, which is a very direct thing. In fact, it's a very excellent research, actually, to be frank, so that you can see that. So you'll see quite often a very common thing like that going on. Shani is really linked with maintaining the order, discipline, structure, and all that. Shani is also directly linked with the seva aspect more. That also includes older people, elderly people, so forth. Servants kind of thing also is there. Now, when Shani is a Atmakaraka, very important karma exists with these kind of people, actually. It's an actual karma to the native themselves is very mature, very old soul kind of thing and all that can be claimed. They understand troubles through life and so forth. So they have that natural sense of compassion which Shani can give also. That can be said actually. But usually however, from a normal perspective, Shani is not an easy graha to be an Atmakaraka. So anyone who does sadhana of a Ugra deity, you know how quickly that deity is also becoming angry when the moment we are not disciplined and structured also. That aspect is there. So of course, that deity aspect is always there. So, but then having said so, Shani really forces you to learn from your own mistakes. Actually, Shani really teaches you patience in a big way. So that being patient becomes very important actually with Shani as an Atmakaraka. You cannot demand anything. You cannot demand a mango tree to grow tomorrow. That kind of thing becomes very strong with Shani as an Atmakaraka. Shani will make sure your life will go through that particular experience no matter what. You will get to experience that piece of Shani kind of thing much more strongly and so forth. Usually, the important other aspect of Shani as an Atmakaraka, as I mentioned, is that the actual karma of learning through service and so forth. The native has to learn to the career aspect, what are leaving behind, the legacy and all that becomes very important. Shani is a very important planet from a karma perspective. Usually the karma yoga aspect becomes much more stronger for this native also. So that particular thing also, and finding God through work, finding the Devata through work, and linking your work with Devata, all that becomes very important at some point in time. So that will also happen with time. The other also, now the Saraswati aspect is very interesting. Saraswati is usually, now there are many astrologers rely on Saraswati, but again, for a normal person, the Saraswati is like, okay, you are emotionally troubled, you feel depressed, you feel isolated, you fall from great heights, typical Saraswati prediction for a normal person. For a sadhana person, someone who is doing sadhana, excellent time period to clear out a mental dose. Excellent time period. The moon is your emotions, your mind. Shani passing through that, you can clean out whatever is not necessary in your mind. And you will see that kind of thing going on. It's a big opportunity from a sadhana person. Shani is the planet of sadhana. In fact, Shani nakshatras are in the middle of moksha signs. So Shani can also lead you towards moksha also in a big way. However, it has to happen in a balanced way. That's a very important aspect. That's why Shani gets exalted in Libra also. Even after we attain moksha, the famous Jivan Mukta, right? The deeper there is the three kinds of nirvanis apparently. One nirvani, of course, you run away from you move away from the world completely fine. Other nirvani is engage with the world. So the engage with the world aspect of nirvani is basically linked with Shani in general. That's something you see going on. And then other nirvani, well, they are halfway between. They kind of share the wisdom kind of thing and all that, but they're still doing sadhana kind of thing also. So that's that particular aspect is going on. So quite often when you have Saraswati and Shani and all that involved, Shani is really the strongest planet that makes sure your karmas are clear no matter what. It forces you to acknowledge your karma so that you can finally address it and finally clear through that. One of the best things when you're going through best book to read on this is the Shani Mahatmyam book. There's a one by Robert Subodha also. He has written that, translated the English one also into English, that book. Shani Mahatmyam teaches basically Vikramaditya went through Saraswati. Only thing he could do was sing. His body was cut off, everything through the entire 7 years. Only thing he could use was his voice because he was trained as a musician during his king. Saraswati, whatever Shani takes away from you at the end of the Saraswati, it will give you back. The whole Shani Mahatmyam book is about that actually, how King Vikramaditya lost everything and finally, he was able to get everything back. So Saraswati is a very important time period where you have to clear out your karma. But more normal people who are not doing sadhana, I've seen they go through depression and all that. However, if they are, because Shani is linked with the legs, Shani is linked with tamasic grass, it's with your bottom, with the movement and all that. Shani is linked with the legs. So usually when you're walking every day, that's one of the best remedies during Saraswati. That's what I've seen. And more importantly, if you're doing any Shani like deity sadhana, then you're fine. So usually Hanuman Chalisa and all that highly recommended during Saraswati. The other usual thing recommended during Saraswati is that of visiting Shani temple on Saturdays and so forth. Ayyappa is very famous for this thing in Kerala and all that. So doing a 40-day fast to Ayyappa is highly recommended. Going to Sabrimala and all that highly recommended. Traditionally, it used to be that Ayyappa thing you would basically go by walking and all that. And the final 4 kilometers, what you do the hiking and all that used to be like one whole day walking, and then you do the 4-5 kilometers, 3 kilometers of steep climbing to in the mountain kind of thing. That used to be a thing. But even if you're not able to go to Ayyappa, at least make sure going on hiking journeys, visit the temples in Himalaya and all that, right? That kind of thing. Now, Shani famously is Shani is linked with Kal Bhairav, so visiting Bhairav temple is very good if you feel the intensity is too high. If you go through Shiva temple, Shiva is also the lord of Mrityunjay and all that. That helps you out a lot. So all that is good actually. Shani usually I would encourage to be patient and treat people with respect, especially if they are in a working class people. Actually, you don't want. There are very specific things where they call out that you should always get the blessing of an elderly person and all that. There used to be a thing where marriages and all that you had to get the blessing of the eldest person or a widow and all that. for the marriage to be stable. Actually, that used to be a thing like that. Nowadays, even people have a limited thing and they don't understand the energetic side of things, so they don't go through it. But quite often, helping out an older person, one of the best things you can do during Sadhasati and all that. If you have an elderly relative, elderly person seeking a blessing, help them out and all that. Elderly neighbor and all that, if you help them out, it's a great thing. Usually, though, I've seen that Shani will, usually a big thing that happens with Saraswati is that it will force you to address the thing that is in front of you. That's a direct thing with Shani. So you cannot hide with Shani. So Shani will force you that, okay, you have a problem, you need to fix that up. Why are you lazy? If you're lazy, you won't get the job, you won't get the money. That kind of thing. That Shani forces you to work hard because of that act. And Shani will show the reality as it is. Okay, you put in effort, you get, so many people are doing Shani will be like, I put in the work, why I'm not getting the result? So are you putting the result in the right direction, right? So that becomes a thing. You have to think like that. Or are you putting in the direction that will give you long-term results? So Shani forces you to think in a long-term perspective because of that. That's a big Shani thing actually. And the moment when you think long-term, okay, how will my next 30 years of my life be? How should my children be looking at me? How should my society be looking at me? What should be having my impact? Shani is going to be happy. Because no longer are you bothered by the small everyday problems. You have long-term goals are clear set. And that's a great thing. Sadhana is perfect time period to plan for what your long-term sadhana goals should be, what a long-term the family goals and should be, what a long-term career goals and all that should be. What should be a long-term thing that is bringing peace to your mind. Sadhana is excellent for that. Cannot say that enough. I know people who have been successful, extremely successful during the sadhana, but turns out they were doing sadhana. Simple as that. So because they were doing sadhana, actually, it was completely fine. So quite often, like I said, most of these ordinary people think which you see for a normal sadhak won't work out. It's a very normal thing. Yogis will laugh when they're telling sadhasati. Because you have sadhasati going great, you'll know it. Because they understand that three-dimensional, four-dimensional aspect and all that, as I mentioned, very easy. They understand that the sadhana is helping them to control over the human level karma. They have that ability to go beyond the human level vision kind of thing, very normal. Very normal thing, actually, as I mentioned. But however, as I mentioned, some yogis do dismiss Jyotisha, like some intellectual yogis might dismiss your Jyotisha, but in reality, they have not done the full work. That's a simple thing I like to say on that one. Sadhasati and all that definitely work, definitely impact will be there. Usually, one's mother's health is usually impacted more, so watch out for fall and all that is usually given. So, not to do anything in a rush manner, take your own time to do it is what it means actually. So, that's the symbol of that. But like I said, it's a powerful opportunity. As from a sadhana perspective, moon and all that directly linked with sattva. It's a moon is a sattvic graha, directly linked with the Ajna chakra and all that. Sadhana perspective impact is huge actually. So if you are targeting sadhana, it's an excellent time period. A lot of amazing things will come eventually from a sadhana perspective. I cannot say. And then definitely targeting the day when Saturn is hitting very close to natal moon and all that. This is a once in 28-year opportunity to appease a Devi aspect actually. If you exactly go on the day when Saturn is hitting your natal moon, exactly on that day, take the day off from work, like go to a temple, do Trikal Puja, spend that entire day in a temple and all that. One of the best things to do. Shani going on any plan is a perfect time period to clear out karmas with the graha, whichever it is going to. Shani going over Jupiter, go to a Vishnu temple and do all day things, seva or something like that. Shani over Sun, go to a Shiva temple and do this particular thing. Once in 28-year opportunity to get a direct blessing. I cannot say this enough. Powerful remedy. Even if you on that day you donate water, you can based on Shani, like donate oil and all that is standard thing to that particular temple. Like Jupiter donate oil to Vishnu temple, Sun donate oil to Shiva temple kind of thing. Amazing things can happen. So you'll be amazed actually. The kind of blessing Shani can give is huge. And it's a powerful thing. I cannot say that. Shani, the moment Shani decided, is there. Now, of course, Shani definitely is a malefic graha. Sometimes they do accuse Shani of being that malefic quality will come. However, depends. If you're doing sadhana, it can be different. That's what it means also. That's the other thing. So definitely Shani as Atmakaraka is very important. As I mentioned, Shani, Sadhasati is a very powerful thing no matter what and so forth. Usually though, as I mentioned, the depression thing you have to watch out. Most of the time I tell people you bring your own depression. Why are you hanging around depressive people? Why are you being sad yourself? Why are you not letting go of things you should be letting go of and all that? That kind of aspect. Why are you not having faith in the deity? That kind of thing and all that becomes very important during Sadhasati. So very important to make sure you're not bringing your own depression is a big thing I will definitely say for sure. Yeah, Shani usually Sadhasati for mature people and all that, that's fine. As long as you're having an adult-like thing going on, completely fine, not a big problem at all. Most of us are adults actually. Many people don't want to grow up. These are the people who really Shani will actually trouble actually. They don't want to grow up. They want to be forever like a child, not taking responsibility for their life and for their situation in life. Definitely Shani will definitely teach them a lesson. very harshly at that point in time. At the same time, if you're willing, or Shani Dev, I'm willing to learn, grow up, and all that, willing to do what is required. Perfect Shani, Sadhasati, and go this thing and all that won't have a big impact to this planet.
Sandeep, since we have a positive time, so quickly we'll go through the other topics. So we were discussing how you had mentioned through your actions you can activate your house, including you're talking about fortune that children bring. So if you could just quickly touch upon that.
Yeah, so quite often the houses. So one aspect of Jyotisha is also each houses is linked with specific aspect of life. Fourth house is famously linked with your home, vehicle, and all that. So quite often you will see fourth house is a vehicle. The immediately next house is fifth house, which is of children. Quite often you will see with couples the moment when they purchase a new home, the next year after that they'll get a child or something. More often, quite often you will see that. Now the moment a child comes in your life, child is linked with Jupiter, and child is also linked with sun and moon depending upon the father and mother. So you become a father, so sun is also activated, fatherhood is activated with sun, motherhood is activated with moon. So quite often you will see many people, the moment the wife is pregnant itself, the career boost also happens because sun is also linked with career also at the same time. That's a big thing you will see. So quite often the moment when you're having a child, you will see that, and definitely you will see impact upon your career, blessings coming through the child because Jupiter is also linked with children. You will see that thing going on. So that's the first thing. Activation of houses through action can happen much more directly. So if you are the moment you get married, your seventh house gets activated from that point on. Your wife is coming, seventh house gets activated. First year for your entire life, the seventh house will be active. Next year, the eighth house will be active. Third year, the ninth house will be active, and you can make a prediction like that just because your wife has come into your life. Similarly, when your child is born, first child is born, fifth house is active. The next year, sixth house is active. The year after that, the seventh house is active. So quite often, when your first child is going through 7 to 8 years of age, it's usually a tough time for many of the parents. It's the eighth house from the fifth house, which is 12th house of your chart. So quite often you will see that actually many parents are going through tough time and all that. So if the children are doing mantras, not a tough time at all. But most of the time, the children's mantras are delayed by parents. Like usually it's 10, 12 years before the children start doing mantras. So you see that thing. So each year for the child is also activating specific houses in the chart. Very easily you can make predictions like that and so forth. More easily, as I mentioned, the specific houses can activate very specific kind of results. So you can very direct Jyotisha technique actually. The moment you have Guru in your chart, the ninth house getting activated, prediction from that can be made because you are sticking with the same Guru. And similarly, Jupiter in a chart is also getting activated. So again, a new kind of progression will begin from Jupiter also because you are living Guru right now. And you can see that. So just because you have a Guru in your life, that also activates a lot of things also from that perspective. So things like that you can see going on. Very easy technique actually. Activation of house through actions as it's called. So situations in life can also brought about through that. Similar to that.
So Santipji, this is a question that every Jyotishi would be asked. I'm asking you also today. What would you see as the future of Dharma and Bharat?
So it's interesting because in Bharat, the India was the birth of Bharat, at least modern day Bharat, has happened at the midnight and all that. So Rahu is in the Lagna for India and so forth, and Sun is basically in fourth house kind of thing for India. However, Shani is the ninth lord and 10th lord in India actually. It's a Yogakaraka Graha for India actually. So there is a slow pace of growth as far as Dharma is concerned. However, the good thing you also see is that because Rahu is on the Lagna, there will be a point when a certain Devatas explosion will happen without doubt. So India is a big universal destiny as far as the log Kalyan is concerned, no matter what, that can be claimed. More importantly, there will be always like a Shani being the ninth lord of Dharma for India also, there will be a slow and steady progress kind of thing. Of course, not many people are at peace. However, Shani guarantees results no matter what. So that's the thing. So even though the dharmic thing might appear to be going down, I would not be worried about that long. Because Rahu is a very big exponential thing actually. So the previous Rahu Ketu axis return when it happened in India, the COVID thing happened actually. However, after that you could see a lot of energies got cleansed, a lot of exposure of the sadhana and all that increased significantly after that. There is something special that will happen as Rahu is going through Aquarius for India and all that. You will see a lot of changes. It will be through a legal thing actually. It will be a legal mechanism how that will bring about big change in Dharma and all that without doubt. It will be the lawyers will be the agents who change for Dharma in Bharat in a big way. Now the Bharat has always been a lot of Devatas are occupying Bharat for sure. Different lands, as I mentioned, Desha Devatas in multiple lands in Bharat has always had a big thing. No matter what, the Bharat is Bharat is definitely having its own destiny. It will play out in a big way no matter what. So at least the chart when Bharat has India has opened up, that has its own thing. Bharat has a unique thing going on because it'll be the in many ways it'll be one of the final places where Dharma or the higher dimensional energies of Devis and Devatas are still there, and you'll see that thing becoming more in the upcoming years. When I will say like from a Bharat Dharma perspective, temples and all that, you'll see big things happening 2 years from now. 2 years from now, when Rahu enters into Capricorn, which will be 9th Bharat kind of thing. Jupiter when it's getting exalted also the year after, next year and all that, that will also be a starting point for huge expansion of Dharma and all that in a big way. But there's a big karma neighbors and all that, so there's some neighboring karma and all that which has to be purified. Now, some astrologers have made some interesting predictions. Some things are better left answered also, so all that will also play out in the future. Yeah, but anyway, the Bharat Dharma definitely will grow for sure. There are what you're seeing now is the explosion of I was making this remark to Anjot before, like how Kumbh Mela was designed to be like an exponential consciousness progression place. Actually, now you're seeing Kumbh Mela being a big thing. The moment when the next Kumbh and all that will be happening, whichever location it is, it'll be a huge thing going on. So that kind of thing will have its own effects. Actually, a lot of people doing mantras and all that will have its own effects without doubt. You're already seeing that how that Bharat Kshetram kind of thing changing in a big way. Definitely it will change without doubt. I'm very sure. However, it will definitely have a direct confrontational thing also, for sure. That fighting for Dharma will have to happen because Shani is getting exalted into Libra in Bharat's chart. That will definitely play out, for sure. But you'll begin to see things coming down a lot, as I mentioned, when real change with Dharma will happen when Shani enters into Taurus, which is 5 years from now. That is when I would really expect big changes, kind of thing, from a dharmic perspective for India. Like I said, there will be some evolution of energies that will happen. Some more, a lot of kshetrams will definitely be purifying a lot of things. So we are already beginning to see that already happening, as I mentioned. So things are going to increase significantly in the future for Bharat, without doubt. I'm pretty sure about that. So that will definitely increase. A lot of Shakti is waiting to explode in Bharat for sure. Does not, a lot of Devatas are still waiting to explode, let's put it that way. That will also happen for sure. Bharat has always had a special thing. Some of the special kshetrams and all that are multiple, like since the eons of time. So it will always preserve the Bharat kings and kingdoms that will come and go away, but those kshetrams and all that will always be there. So future of Bharat is always secure as far as those kshetrams are always there to be planned.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. Now we have a few questions. Quickly, if you could just touch upon each questions, then we are good to hear your final thoughts for this episode. So we have, he asked, what about Rahu in the 8th house?
8th house is usually sadhana thing, so you'll have to do some sadhana of Durga Devi, Bhairava, or sometimes sadhana of Sarpas, Nagas, and all that is recommended. Nagastudi and all that is a good starting point. Rahu in the 8th house. Usually, Rahu gives the results of the planet whose sign it is in. So, doing the sadhana for that deity, that particular graha is also something I would encourage. Rahu in the 8th house is very important to confront fear, actually. Confront your own fear, so that being afraid and all that is a very normal thing. Quite often the fear might be coming from a sadhana thing or something, or sadhana bunk and all that. Rahu in the 8th house is also standard thing where there is a natural tendency to attract negativity also because of that. Not meeting good people, swearing a lot, all that prediction is made. So avoiding all that becomes important. You have to make sure you're purifying your speech and all that with Rahu in the 8th house kind of thing. Because Ketu is going to second house of speech. So your speech has to be purified very strongly. So the moment you have a mantra thing going on, and then you are basically purifying that energy, it'll be good. Rahu in the 8th house is also great for doing any kind of yogic sadhana also, to be frank. Any yoga sadhana also, I would encourage that. It's a standard prediction with Rahu in the 8th house. Pranayama and all that, right? That kind of thing I would really encourage. Having that meditation is a must actually. But if you can connect with the deity of like any kind of Durga and all that, I would really encourage and support. But at least do the Bhairav Kavach or some kind of Kavach mantra. That's something I would really encourage. Kavach kind of do it at least, I would recommend that. And do some Durga is usually what I would encourage with Rahu in the 8th house. The 8th house is considered to be a feminine sign also from that perspective. So I would recommend that also. Usually Bhairava and all that, do it with a guru and all that. Otherwise, don't get into it is what I would advise in general with Rahu in the 8th house. Because sometimes I've seen around the 8th house, these natives might be too obsessed about some sadhana and then they don't follow through. You invite Bhairava, you screw yourself up, right? That kind of thing going on. If you're not willing to be disciplined and all that, don't get into that also. I would encourage that. But it's great for Durga Upasana, that I would really encourage. Some simple Durga thing, as in like now Durga kind of thing you can always do. But anyway, the Ishtadevata thing, I would not be worried about that, to be frank. If you are drawn to a deity, Rahu and the 8th best remedy is to make sure you're doing Sandhya Namam and all that every day. That's the easiest thing with Rahu and the 8th. Make sure every Sandhya time at least you are having some mantra jap kind of thing. Sandhya is the easiest time of the day when Rahu is just super active. Lighting a deepam exactly in the Rahu Sandhya time is the easiest thing you can do in the 8th. Minimum thing is that if you do that. That's what I would encourage. But then Durga Kavjam, Bhairav Kavjam, all the typical stotrams and all that with Rahu like deities as I mentioned. That is great. But make sure you're not encouraging fear as an emotion. Around the 8th house, you have the tendency to make fear as a dominant thing. That'll be the biggest thing I would actually ask you to take away. So don't allow fear. Don't think through fear. Don't allow fear should not have a position when you're making any kind of decision. Like I'm afraid this will happen. Don't think like that. I do this. Solve everything logically. That's what I would encourage around the 8th house.
Next question we have, Santhip ji, is Mercury, Venus, and Pisces Lagna. Which deity and temple would you recommend?
Venus being exalted, any kind of Devi Upasana, Devi thing is very high. Usually I would encourage Mercury, Venus can easily be Lakshmi kind of thing. Lakshmi Narayan and all that super easy. Any kind of Balaji, any Vishnu temple is highly recommended. However, certain Devi temples are also very strongly recommended. Usually with Pisces, they recommend seaside temples actually. Any seaside temples also I would really recommend. Temple by the ocean and all that. This the Lakshmi temple in Mumbai and all that, for instance. All that is great actually. Any seaside temple, I would really encourage. That will have a very special thing with Pisces actually.
Santhip ji, a little bit about Guru Rahu Guru Yoga.
Yeah, Jupiter Rahu Yoga, sometimes Guru Chandal Yoga is what it's called. Sometimes the Chandal can show up as a Guru. Make sure you're not falling for fake Gurus as it's called. Like you like a, what do you call it? Try to meet the Guru in person rather than just internet kind of thing. That's highly recommended with this thing. So always look at what the Guru is saying and what they're doing kind of thing. Are they in harmony kind of thing? I would advise that. Jupiter Rahu, usually it means that in one lifetime you have been a Guru, but at the same time you are not fulfilled the duties of a Guru actually. So at least sometimes I've seen with this placement, their karma with gurus is also not that great sometimes. Now, it depends upon other placement, malefic, benefic impact, and all that. In some cases, I've seen they come across bad astrologers. That's also I've seen actually Guru Rao. So usually care is recommended. So make sure you're going to temple two temples before you meet an astrologer. I would highly recommend that. I would recommend that. Guru Chandal Yoga is not that bad actually. Shankaracharya famously had a Chandal as a Guru. So you can't call Chandal as a bad thing actually. So you can't. Nothing bad about that. Just that watch out for that tendencies in general is what I would encourage.
So, dear viewers, just to let you know, we are only taking one question from what we are sharing, whatever the team chooses to display. I would request Santhip ji that Santhip ji, whenever you get time, please do try to answer some of the questions of the viewers in the chat box.
Comments, yeah. Sure, yeah, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have an interesting question. Sir, I'm born during solar eclipse on Dhumavanti Jayanti. Any advice?
Yeah, it's a big thing. So one thing I teach a lot of people is that if someone comes to your Narasimha Jayanti, it is Narasimha's will that you're meeting that person at that point in time. Dhumavati Jayanti means direct link with Dhumavati Act. Without doubt, you can claim that. So visiting Dhumavati temple is very good. I would always encourage that. Make sure some Dhumavati thing and all that you're doing. You'll see a lot of blessings coming from that. Children born during Navratri, Diwali, all this same thing logic applies there also. So if you're born in Navratri, without doubt Devi's blessing is there upon the child. Devi was directly involved with the child. So very important thing. So quite often you'll see that happen also. Now many people do cesarean and all that based on that also. They combine numerology and cesarean and auspicious Navratri and all that for that. Will do that. Solar eclipse usually can mean intense karma actually. So that means some sadhana kind of thing coming up. Usually it also means that Sun, Moon, Rahu or Ketu are together. Depending upon Rahu and Ketu, which karma was going on more intensely. Solar eclipse usually is a very strong sadhana karma usually. Now it could also mean sometimes karma from a different loka also to be frank. So quite often these natives will feel lost and all that. That tendency to feel distracted or distracted and all that can happen. Usually doing those standard pujas is always recommended. Pitadosh kind of Nivaran puja and all that highly recommended. In some cases, with worst case scenario was solar eclipse is that having invited a negative deity kind of thing or a deity is targeted negatively. Like you are inviting Bhairav, then telling Bhairav go kill someone else, something like that. Sometimes that kind of thing is claimed actually with solar eclipse kind of thing. However, quite often Sun Rahu, Sun Ketu kind of thing can mean a real karma with like spirituality actually. It's great. So as long as you're doing Upasaka and all that is good actually. Like I said, the harsh side of the prediction which I meant could be targeting normal people convert into sadhana kind of thing. And you'll see that I'll be very relevant in the family suffering and all that. So as I mentioned, the karka and all that will be significantly as suffered. That means that the deity was not used correctly. So deity was not approached respectfully, is what they usually say. That's a big thing, by the way. So many people, you bring in a deity, then you don't offer respect. You do a sadhana thing and all that. You're not treating it correctly. It comes with karmas actually. So sometimes solar eclipse can mean that. So Dumadi Jayanti is great. So no matter what, really, Dumadi Mata's blessing is there. So good to target that. That I would really visit any Dumadi temple there. Make it a regular thing. You'll be amazed after that. That's something I would advise.
So last couple of questions we have, Santhip ji, that the team has highlighted. So Mr. AJ, how can we find out the Ishta Devata theme from the Kundali? And he also mentioned in the chat that he was born on Kal Bhairav Jayanti.
Yeah, Kalbhairav Jayanti, then usually I would encourage standard target, the same logic. Look at Kalbhairav itself. That's the easiest thing. I would highly recommend that. However, usually, as I mentioned, try to connect with Sampradaya and all that. That's what I would advise. Don't definitely work with the Guru directly with Kalbhairav, because again, Bhairava is Bhairava. You should want to mess with that unless you're prepared also. Very direct thing, very important. Other thing though, as I would mention, different Devakya definitely has different ways. I've seen in Bengal and all that they use a Navatara, for instance. Navatara technique is used in Bengal to see if it's a Vipat Nakshatra and all that. Even Nakshatra kind of technique I've seen in Bengal. In Kerala, they usually look at 5th house, 9th house, strongest planet, and so forth is what is usually seen. I've seen, as I mentioned, Vimshamsha chart is also looked at for sadhana kind of thing, because that definitely indicates a deeper principle of prana movement and all that. So definitely the Vimsham channel is also favorable, which I described actually. The other thing, only new thing I wanted to share was that, the more important thing I want to share was that it's like asking who is your favorite movie star. Why do you want to talk to an astrologer about that? So why do you want an astrologer to tell who your favorite movie star is? That only you will know it actually. You like Amir Khan, you like Salman Khan or Akshay Kumar. That's your thing actually. So it's your thing actually, not a Devkya thing. And quite often there was this famous saint in Ujjain or Kashi, I forget where. He started off with sadhana with the Bhadragali actually. He started doing Kali mantras for a long time. Eventually the Devi appeared and told him, Beta, I'm not your Devata, your Devata is Bhattu Bhairava. Go to that top of the hill, there is a Bhattu Bhairava statue there, do that sadhana. So no sadhana will ever go lost actually, to be frank. Eventually the deities themselves will guide you towards the correct deity no matter what. So it's very important to build up your Devata thing no matter what. So quite often multiple lifetimes will take to have a solid thing with the Devata also, to be frank. So once you have that thing going on, so no matter what, whoever your deity you start with, eventually you will end up reaching Ishta Devata no matter what. That is always going to be there. So that's a default thing actually. So the Jyotishis can also show up. In some cases, as I mentioned, nimittas and all that can confirm also. So different devaknyas, depending upon their own sadhana level, parampara and all that will share different things. However, as I mentioned, usually these kind of things, it has to be a you thing also. What is my own thing going on? What is the devata that is coming to me? What is my favorite movie star thing going on, right? So that is a big thing going on actually. And as I mentioned, do not hesitate on that. Start with what you can. Eventually, you started Hanuman Chalisa. You maintain Hanuman thing. Eventually, you start at Kal Bhairava. Eventually, you might go to a Kali or something. Eventually, you might go towards Shiva or something. Completely normal actually. As far as sadhana marg is concerned, progression through multiple devatas is very normal thing from that perspective. So very normal thing. So don't hesitate on starting the process. What I would really say actually.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. We have the last question for today, and I take this opportunity to request both you and Archit. We should have a follow-up session on just Q&A, because I think we've not been able to do enough justice to the questions that people have.
Sure.
So he Shankar has Rahu and Shani as conjunct in his 9th house.
Yeah, Shani Rahu in the 9th house, usually they say karma with astrologers and advisors are having some challenges. Guru karma itself is delayed actually is what they say. Usually with this placement, doing seva for a guru or any kind of thing is highly recommended. Shani Rahu usually is a direct thing with very strong fierce deities actually. But I would encourage to go to like a Ugradevata temple pilgrimage and all that for a long time. Now, depending upon the graha and all that, I would encourage that. If it's in Leo or if it's in Libra and all that, it has its own interpretations also. Different Rashis have their own thing. For sadhana, usually I would encourage Shani Rahu, start with the Hanuman temple, start with Durga temple, go with that. That would definitely, but have a routine of visiting Kal Bhairava temple on Ashtami also, something I would encourage. At least visit that Kal Bhairava temple, no matter what. Start with temples actually. and then finally connect with some guru kind of thing. Eventually, is what I would say. But the problem with Shani Rao in 9th house usually means there's a curse. Not a, I won't scare people and all that. Shani Rao usually means that there is a serious karma of the guru that has to be resolved actually. And quite often I've seen they talk with an astrologer, they get depressed after that. I've seen that. I have to tell people, you have this thing, you have given bad advices to people, so the astrologer might have to give you bad advice and you'll be depressed and all that kind of thing. Quite often you see these are the typical cases where like a marriage is not happening because the astrologer is saying this fully name will right types, that kind of thing going on. So usually that karma is there. But at least the good thing I would say with Shani Rao is that the karma with a very fierce Shani kind of deity is there. I would really encourage Hanumanji and the goddess aspect also, or Kalbhairav and Kali kind of thing going on. Definitely a temple pilgrimage has to happen. Standard thing, of course, the Kuldevi, I have not mentioned Kuldevi Kuldevada a lot. Start with Kuldevi Kuldevada no matter what. No matter what, you don't know who your Devata is, at least go back to Kuldevi to find out who that is. Where did your ancestors come from? Which Devata have they done worship for? Quite often that will be very clear actually. And although at least go to a region where your ancestors came from, find the Desha Devata of that temple there. Like I said, all the energies will eventually direct you towards the right thing in the end. Make sure you're doing that. And at least start with your Kuldevi Kuldevata. Find out your Kuldevi Kuldevata, work with that energy, develop that energy, work with multiple gurus as it comes, but definitely stick with the process. Have faith in deities, do a lot of pilgrimages actually. Pilgrimages is a way to clear out that karma, to be frank. Shani Rao is a very direct thing to go to Shakti Peeth and all that. But definitely you'll have to go to, usually they say at the ancestral lineage, some tamasic deity was worshipped is what they usually say. Quite often I've seen karma with Shiva also being challenging. So they have not done the Shiva thing and all that, also can be played. So Shani Rao, definitely Shiva Aradhana is what would really encourage as a starting point no matter what. But the Kuldevi Kuldevada is the real thing going on. So if you can find out the Kuldevi, believe me, that's big. Quite often your Kuldevi is the Devata who's helping you to connect with your Ishtadevata also. This is the other thing going on. That's a big thing that many people miss out on, to be frank. And when you establish your thing with Kuldevi and Kuldevata, then your Ishtadevata thing will be amplified significantly actually. It's like 100x soon at that point in time. I cannot say that enough. So that is a big thing with Shani Rao. Now, most of the time people say, I don't know my Kuldevi, Kuldevata, that's the karma. Find out that and all that. That's the karma to find that out for sure. So that will require you to travel, seek out and all that. That is what they usually say.
Thank you, Santhip ji. I think that was, I can't believe we went live for over 2 hours. The time just flew by.
Yeah,
And
just
we are really
when I
grateful
start
to,
talking,
yes.
Just
One
saying that
thing
when I
is,
start talking
whenever
about
we hear, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, it is always, it is our honor to, listen from you, Sandeep ji. Whenever you start saying, it is like some other forces also, connect through you, and you become a medium and give us the information. So we are very, highly appreciable, and that is, we appreciate that. And we're looking forward to connect with you again. Thank you for your presence.
yeah, sure, sure. Namaste, Anuj. Thank you for
So,
inviting me. Thank you for giving me a plan. Go ahead.
so dear viewers, you can reach out to Sandeep ji through the mail ID that we have displayed. And you should definitely try to contact him, reach out to him, and get a session with Sandeep ji, because I remember how Archit and I had our first consultation with Sandeep ji when we met at a retreat that was being led by Sri Guru, and it was a phenomenal experience for us. So thank you, Sandeep ji. We look forward to hosting you very soon. We'll reach out to you for your calendar. Archit will definitely reach out to you, and we'll focus a lot on Q&A this time, with your permission.
Yeah, thank you, Anirudh and Archit for inviting me back. Once again, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad I could talk today. Great.
Java.